Yes, the footy finals picture is starting to take shape across both codes. We're less than a month away from NRL finals, only a few weeks in the AFL. There'll be some good sides that miss out in both. We'll talk things all things footy finals and leading into the great month of September. Plus, the NFL is back, sort of. Preseason's underway. We'll talk about the news, injuries, suspensions and the like, and then lead into a big fantasy football segment. We love our NFL. We love our fantasy football. We'll talk about some players to target and some players to avoid in your fantasy draft. We're watching the cricket right now. It seems way too early for the summer of cricket to start, but we've got some white ball action with Australia playing South Africa. Hot off their romp over in the West Indies, didn't lose a game over there, plus India and England, pretty crazy finish in the 5th test. We'll also talk some biffs. UFC 319 is just around the corner. A couple of F1 races since our last pod. This is On The Esky. It's an Aussie sports podcast. We like our Aussie sport. We like our US sport, particularly the NFL. We do have timestamps. NFL will start in about 45 minutes. We'll get to our local footy first. You can skip to the sports that you like on YouTube or just check out the whole thing. If you're finding us for the first time on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And we do have Instagram, Facebook, X, and the like. Shauno, we like to shout a beer to start off the show. This is an interesting one here. I don't know who actually receives the beer, but run us through the story.
What was it? Inanimate objects. You know, I think they've got a few.
They have
beers from us in the past.
They have.
But yeah, I'm shouting out some dildos. If you're unaware. The WNBA has been turned into the dildo range, as the joke goes, and they now have a bit of an epidemic of people throwing dildos onto the court. They're now up to 4. They've had 3 green and 1 purple. But the wild thing out of this is the betting markets. They've created betting markets on, you can bet on what colours next going to be thrown on. So that is actually now eclipsing the amount that's actually betting on the winner of said games as well. So, like I said, there's been 4. I think there was a 5th one, but it technically didn't make it to the court. So does the dildo
have to hit the
I think it's
hardwood?
I think the
official?
betting market is the next color of dildo that hits the court. So in their reaction, for some of the recent games, they've had a no bag policy, so you can't sneak it in that way. So been a lot of jokes about how they sneaking them in, what orifices are they popping out of.
Might need to have full body scans on entry. That'll cost the league even more.
Yeah, the one that hit Stephanie Cunningham the other day.
Sophie Cunningham.
Sorry. It was reported the guy that was carrying it had it in his jumper pocket, essentially. So he just tucked it in and walked through security. So maybe they'll start adding pat downs and things like that, looking for dildos as they come in. Supposedly, it was all started by a cryptocurrency, the green dildo coin, because they're claiming that they did the first one to try and create some publicity. I wouldn't surprise me if they've seen this and then done the opposite and created the coin so people are interested in it, because it's generating a lot of bad publicity, but any publicity is good in this instance. Sure. So it's a bit of a wild thing happening in the WNBA at the moment.
And memes are plenty, that's for sure.
Plenty of memes.
Whilst it is a little funny, I guess, let's hope that there's no more dildos throwing in the WNBA. Because, if something gets launched, particularly from up high, and hits one of those players in the head.
They're solid.
Yeah, exactly.
No BBCs yet. So
all right. Talking about BCs, the Black Caps. That's what you're talking about. Yes. I will be shouting a beer to the Black Caps, who have recorded the 3rd biggest innings victory in Test history over there in Zimbabwe, winning by an innings and 359 runs. Poor old Zimbabwe, they batted first and made 125. New Zealand went out and did a bit of batting practice, making 3 for 601. There were centuries to Devon Conway, Henry Nichols and Rachin Ravindra. Both Nichols and Ravindra finished unbeaten and they declared on 601. And then went out there and skittled them for 117. So, about as one-sided as Test cricket can get. And enjoy a beer courtesy of the Esky to the Black Caps. Mop of the week, you got the story here. You like your NASCAR and often are shouting SVG a beer over there, but there's a bloke over there that's done something mop-worthy this week.
Yeah, so Xfinity race today. How do you say Connor's last name?
Zillage, I'd imagine.
So Connor Zillage, the road course. So SV, it's road course, so the cup race will be tomorrow morning. I think SVG's on pole for that. But of course, you race in the Xfinity race. Him and Connor were going head-to-head very late in this, and Connor tags him in the side, puts him in the wall. What's kind of, I guess, funny and mop out of this, he goes on to win and then climbs out of his car. You've seen the video. Gets his, trying to stand on the windowsill and maybe should have gone to the roof as like they usually do. But he's got caught up and then fell forward and he's basically gone head first into the concrete. So
collarbone first.
Yeah, he stayed down. They had to stretcher him off into the ambulance and take him to the hospital. They ruled out concussions and anything neck like bad related, but he broke his collarbone. So whether that's a bit of karma there for being an SVG on a bad takeout, or I think it was you got to. I think it was his 6th win as well, so he probably practiced his celebrations a little bit better is probably the main thing out of this. But yeah, it was a bad hit for him, unfortunately. Some rumours going around that maybe as he was driving, because they drove the car into the winner's circle, they were spraying him with some beverages and things like that, so it might have been a little bit slippery, so we'll give him a slight pass on that. Yeah, but he's ate it hard in this one.
Maybe that's what happened to Hoops, mate. James Hooper got sprayed with beverages before taking to the wheel.
He wasn't spraying him down his own gullet.
So poor NRL 360. We've lost the NRL 360 legend Paul Kent last year, taken out by a tree outside a pub in the inner west of Sydney. He hasn't returned to 360, although he's out doing his podcast work, old Kenty. And then Hoops is gone, so we've just got Braith and Buzz left on the panel on 360.
Can't wait for the Buzz DUI. That'll be funny.
So it's just going to be Buzz just talking to himself, just talking nonsense at the moment on 360. It'd be interesting to see who they get to come in. So yes. Not good times there.
I think Gordon's been filling in a bit more for them, but yeah.
Also mop-worthy there. Yes. Speaking of, let's talk some NRL. We are very close to finals. I'll hit the sting. Thursday night, Melbourne looked pretty handy, winning 22-2 against Brisbane, but it was an injury nightmare for the Broncos. Yep. They lose both Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mam on the same play. They both do hammies. Looks like Reynolds...
Was it Coates that ran down and all the way down here?
Trying to, yeah.
They're trying to chase.
Yeah, so they both were sort of engaging hammies in max efforts, and Mam went and then Reynolds went. It's looking like 3 to 4 weeks for Reynolds, so should be good for finals. Mam, they're not sure. Yeah. That's high grade.
And the third one was Cobbo, so they're both saying that those two, are higher grade. They're looking at 4+ weeks. So, yeah, that's a big out.
Not good. They're kind of, in some ways, if it's going to happen to any club, it's a club that actually boasts 3 really good halves. Yeah. So Benny Hunt will slot it into the 7.
And I think Cobbo had only just come back into the squad. So, whether they chop a change again out there on the wingers. So, yeah.
Yeah, not good for the Bronx. Melbourne looking pretty good. They're under $3 now to win the whole thing. Their run home is interesting, though.
Probably one of the hardest ones, but be battle ready, I guess, for them.
Well, they're at Penrith next week. So that's a replay of the 2024 grand final. Might be a little preview of the 2025 grand final too. Then they go Bulldogs, Roosters and at Broncos to finish. Brisbane's run home, Dolphins, at Knights, at Cowboys and Storm. So definitely a few winnable games there for the Bronx, missing a fair few troops. But I think top 4 might be a bit of a stretch now, given those injuries for the Bronx.
Should hold on to that.
Penrith just look like old Penrith now.
Yep.
It's hard to believe that, 2.5 months ago they were sitting dead last. They've won 9 in a row. They're in the top 4 now, with the Warriors losing. Casey McLean scored a double. They're looking red hot. They run home, Storm, so massive one. Raiders, massive one. At Bulldogs, and then a team that just knocks off top 8 teams at Dragons. Dragons to finish. But Penrith are well and truly looking at a top 4 finish now. Canberra?
Could they probably can't finish higher than 4th?
I think it's 3 points between them and Canterbury. I've got it here. No, it's 5. It's 5 points.
So I think it'd be very tough for them to go higher than where they are.
Well, they're trying to finish 4th and either get the Raiders or Storm. Bulldogs could still win a minor premiership too.
Yep.
But as it stands, Raiders too clear, and we'll talk about them. They won 28-12 Friday night after a nice opening try from Manly. Tolacola was pretty quick setting up Turbo, but then it was Ethan Strange.
He's been one of their best this year.
Yeah. They're good when they're on those outside backs for Manly, but the second half was all one-way traffic, and Ethan Strange, mate, is he a smoky for Kangaroos at the end of the year?
It could be.
Yeah. Ricky was saying
they're definitely going to have the conversation. I think if he keeps his form for next year for Origin for New South Wales,
100%, yeah.
So,
Ricky was saying that's the Blues' future six.
Yep,
he's getting into bat there for his 5'8", who's been electric.
He's very dynamic running the football. He's
he's strong.
There's a lot of Jack
well.
White into his game. Like obviously Ricky teaches that kind of 5'8" play. So he's definitely got that, and he just adds a little bit with his ball playing and small, short kicking game and
footwork, taking on the line,
exactly.
And cutting centers in half on that first try. Yeah, he looks a goods. The Raiders are 2 points clear on top. Their run home, they still have a bye, so they play the bye next week. Then they go at Panthers, Tigers, at Dolphins.
That Panthers game will be a real test for them because they've spent the last 6 weeks playing teams not in the top 8. So yeah, they'll have a good test for them.
And looked beatable at a few times. Dragons beat them last week. They didn't really get out of fourth gear against the Eels until about the last 10 minutes, and then absolutely piled it on them. Yep. A few good hit outs there for the Durs before the finals. They haven't won the minor premierships since 1992. I want to say. They didn't win at 94 when they last won the comp. So over 30 years since they've last won a minor premiership. The town's a buzz, mate.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of green getting around.
Manly, that was pretty close to their finals. They can still make it. They've got Tigers, Dolphins, at Dragons, Warriors. So not an impossible run home. But they sit 2 points out of the 8, and their points difference is minus 10. And the Dolphins, as it stands, are in 8th, plus 119. Yep. So got to be an uphill battle for the Seagulls.
They'd want one of those, whether it's Brisbane Sharks or Dolphins, to kind of slide so they can.
Given those injuries, maybe the Bronx.
Yep.
Dragons beat the Sharks 22-14. Dragons continue to knock off top 8 teams. So this year they've beaten the Sharks, they've beaten the Raiders, they've beaten the Storm, they've beaten the Broncos. Yep. That's actually more than anyone else in the top 8 other than the Raiders and Broncos in terms of claiming top 8 scalps. To boot, they've also lost to Souths, they've lost to Cowboys, they've lost to Eels, they've lost to the Tigers. So definitely some promising signs there as a Dragons fan for 2026. Yep. But also a little bit of should have, would have, could have. Lost a lot of close games this year and have shown that they obviously can beat good sides. But just getting some of that consistency amongst the playing group would be important for 2026.
Yeah, I think we talked about they're a quality half away from where they need to be. They need someone that kind of manages what they need to try and get wins.
Well, like in King Tonga, he's only young, but he has impressed me, particularly down the stretch in this sort of debut season for him. He's still very green, but he's showing that he's got a bit of talent to go in there and knock off some pretty good teams. Being led by a teenage half is pretty impressive, I think. And Flano's going to be there. He's extended, so it's
so that means Kyle's going to be there for a while.
I'd say so.
Yeah, I think he got 2 extra years extended on his deal. I couldn't actually find an exact number whether it was 2 or 3.
Mate, the rugby league ratings on the video game, remember, he's a top 5 half in the NRL, according to whoever makes that game. Both Flano's probably going to be around for a little bit longer, and definitely some positive signs for the Dragons, who have, in the last 2 weeks, beaten the Sharks and the Raiders.
Yep.
Finns, you got to put a line through them. They conceded 50 for the first time this year.
So they can't win the comp, sorry. I was like, but they can still make the 8. Yes.
Yeah, but they can't win.
They can't win.
They can't win. Sorry, I was getting ahead of ourselves.
They're the only team currently in the 8, I believe, that have had full 50 put on them this year. All the other 50 burgers are in the bottom 8 guys.
Well, I've got the list there. So the teams that have conceded 50, Souths have done it twice, Eels have done it twice, Cowboys, Dragons, Tigers, Titans, Eels. So, none of those teams are anywhere near it. But as the old adage goes, you can't concede 50 and win the comp.
No one's ever won the comp after.
Interesting, half those teams I just spoke about, it's been the Finns that have put the 50 on them. So there's been nothing wrong with their attack this year, but clearly having to sort out that defence leading into finals. They hold on, but, if any team, they pretty much got smashed by the worst team that they could have copped a big loss to, because now the Chooks are hot on their heels.
Yeah, closed a 50-point difference on them as well.
Yeah, exactly. So massive swing in terms of points difference, and they're lucky that their points difference is so good as it is. The Finns run home at Broncos, at Manly, Titans, Raiders.
Yeah, some toughies in there.
Chooks run home is Dogs, at Para, at Melbourne, South.
Yep.
So Eels and South, two very winnable games there. The tests for the Chooks are going to be the Dogs and Storms game, but it's interesting.
They've definitely improved since Walker's been back as well.
So, they're looking good with Sammy Walker. We'll get to the Dally M later, but it looks like Teddy is all but going to win the
looks
Dally
heavy
M.
favourite.
He scored a double last night. Marky Mark, how good's he been? He scored a hattie last night. So the Chooks are getting right at the right time of the year.
Yeah, double for Daniel Tupou in there. He's one away from Steve Menzies to go fourth overall.
Crazy.
And I'm pretty sure we said a week or two ago that he'd signed another 2-year extension. So likely he's going to be second. And Alex Johnson, we got to South yet, scored a double. So he's now 3 away.
Yeah, so we haven't got to South just yet. We'll talk about that in the Spoon Bowl. They won that today. But yeah, he's 3 behind Ken Irvine. And nice that you mentioned there, Daniel Tupou, because kind of just going about his business.
Yeah, everyone's talking about Alex.
All this talks about AJ, and he needs 3 to equal and 4 to go past Ken Irvine. So it's certainly could happen in the next 4 games. But yeah, nice little mention there for Daniel Tupou. Sits on 179, 5th all time. Needs 1 to equal Beaver and 2 to go past.
Yep, and then 10 to get to Billy.
So that's not going to happen this season, but likely to go 4th all time. So nice little point there. And we'll get to South in just a second. Canterbury did beat the Warriors last night, 32-14. Double for Tuala. Critter looking pretty good. The Dogs run home. They only play top 8 teams now. So
tough run.
Yeah, and a bit of the knock on them this year is, unlike the Dragons, they've actually struggled to put away top 8 teams. So a good win last night against a top 8 opponent. They play Roosters, Storm, Penrith, Sharks. So show us what you made of the boys in blue and white. Massive. Really a month of finals for them before they start their month of finals.
Yep.
Warriors, I think, might be the biggest pretenders in the top 8, unfortunately. A couple of losses for them last few weeks.
I think they're banged up.
They are, but they're lucky. Their run home is one of the easiest runs home there is. So they got Dragons, Titans, Eels, Manly. So as it stands, they don't play a top 8 side. I don't think they're in too much danger of dropping out of the 8. Which, if they had the Dogs run home, I'd be very concerned about them actually playing finals footy.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Spoon Bowl today. So South beat Gold Coast by 2 points. AJ runs in those 2 tries, so it goes to 209, 3 behind the great Ken Irvine, and they do a little switcheroo in 17th, I think. As it stands, South... So I had to refresh my ladder. Titans 17th, 16 points, and then Rabbitohs jump them to 18 points, but have a much worse points difference. It's looking like them 2 or Newcastle could potentially get the Spoon.
Cowboys aren't too far away.
They've struggled over the last few months, haven't they?
Post-Origin, they've really struggled.
Big time. They lost today by a point to Parramatta. I didn't see any of that, but pretty ordinary game.
You did your eyeballs good service.
Whilst we're on the Gold Coast, should we talk about Tino? So Tino Fasasua Malawi has been told or has expressed that he'll be testing the market come November 1st once the trade window opens up. There's some talk about, 1.2, 1.4 plus. And there's a team out west that's going to
all their salary cap currently
and struggling to land players at the moment.
Yeah, they've been in the current market, as you will, for guys that are looking for extensions. So Jeremy Hughes was one. He turned them down and decided to stay. Jerome, sorry. Hughes turned them down to stay at the Storm on a slightly less deal than what the Bears were offering. But the Bears are still looking for a marquee signing kind of to kick off their roster. The time is starting to dwindle for getting that team also ready for, 2027, I think they're coming in?
Yeah, so they're going to need to have some resemblance of their team ready for next year, and then they could have a few marquee guys come across in the 26 off season before the 27 season starts.
So November 1st is the big date for them because that's when all the other guys kind of come into the availability for them to start asking. And Tino is a big one, and you've talked about the money. They could basically make him the highest paid player in a rugby league and throw all the money at him to kind of guarantee the fact, try to guarantee they get a big signing and get him over out west.
Is that a smart thing to do, do you think, to throw $1.5 million at a middle forward?
I don't know.
Depends how you're going signing guys.
Yeah. Like you prefer someone in the halves,
like
obviously.
Cameron Munster.
Yes.
Who has also been sort of heavily linked to a
but I think
potential move.
He re-signed for 2 and a bit years a year ago. So I think he's probably next November 1st, like maybe that conversation could start again, which then adds PNG, of course, to the conversation because they're going to want to put a team together. What's interesting, going back to AJ, in his contract, supposedly there's a clause that allows him to leave and potentially play for a PNG squad. So be interesting to see how that goes. But then, those two are going to be competing for hopefully not scraps and trying to get some good quality guys to come across and join the squads. So I guess good for Bears. They've got Mal there trying to put that squad together. But yeah, so far they really haven't been able to get anyone pen to paper to try and get the ball rolling, essentially.
Got a news.com article up here, great reliable source there. But according to the article, blue chip prospects dropping day by day. So guys that had been linked to potential moves, Kalen Ponga, Jerome Hughes, Api Coruscant, all restating their commitment to Eastern Standard Time. I wouldn't be overly concerned as a Bears, if you are a Bears fan. I think, like you said, November is going to be interesting. If we get to Christmas and they don't have any marquee signings, then it's panic stations, I think.
And if these guys decide to stay put, then that's when that conversation really starts.
Now, before 2027, we've got a finals run to happen here in 2025. Premiership odds are starting to... It's looking more and more like Penrith Storm, the story of the 2020s.
Yep.
The Storm are at $2.80, Panthers into $4. I think that's now the shortest that Penrith have been all season. The Raiders at $5, the Bulldogs are at $6, and then a massive jump out to the Sharks at 23, Broncos at 26, Roosters 41, Finns, Warriors 56.
Yeah, and my thinking on that, there's 4 teams in there. I don't think the Bulldogs can win the comp just with their constant chopping and changing of their spine. I think, when they run into the final period, it's going to be very difficult for them. Probably learning curve, come back and be dominant next year kind of thing. Where, they in that constant taking a step forward. So Storm and Penrith will be there. The Raiders, I think, that's their chance this year. Otherwise, they're probably not window closing, but they're going to have to kind of reset with Fogarty kind of going, and they need someone to be the new managing half for them.
Yeah,
and he adds a lot to their teams.
Yeah, 100%. As good as Weeks and Strange have been, you lose your 7. It's very difficult to then.
He's the old head that does all the old head things they need
100%,
for him. So
100%.
So they're in a bit of like win now window, whereas I think Sharks, Broncos, Dolphins, and Warriors probably can't. Maybe, Broncos maybe on their day if they're all healthy, but I just don't see that currently.
Yeah, I think we've seen that massive jump in the odds from the 4th team to the 5th team because realistically there probably is 4 teams. I'll go out on a limb. I'll say the Dogs can win the comp. I think they've got enough talent there, and they've shown that throughout the year. But it's this month of footy before the final start that's gonna they're gonna have to show what they're made of because they haven't had a real swarm of top 8 of victims. So they've really been good at putting away the ordinary teams, unless they're the West Tigers last week.
Yes.
But I don't have heaps of scalps from the higher end of the competition.
The one I left out was Roosters. I think they're
getting it right at the right time.
Yes, I feel like they're getting right at the right time. Sam Walker is still showing his elite creativity, and he continues to grow in the game. And bringing DCE across next year is going to be interesting to see how that floats, but maybe a year or 2 under his wings to teach him more will help. But I think he's as good of halfback as you can get in the comp. So
next year aside, do you think they can win the comp this year?
I would never doubt the Roosters. I think they could slide in and be competitive just because of the list they churn out every week.
As good as they looked last night, it would be a very tough ask to do it from currently 9th.
Yes.
There's no guarantee that they make the 8th.
That's also true.
If they do make the 8th, likely have to do it from 7th or 8th.
Yeah, they're the team that comes in 7th or 8th, and then it's your dark horse. They're the team, if you're a top 4 squad, you don't want to be facing because you know that on a day, they have the talent to put you away. Potentially going to have the Dally M winner in Teddy in their squad.
We'll get to that in just a second. That Dogs Chooks game next weekend is a big one. That's massive.
Good test.
Just given what we've spoken about the Dogs. And can they beat good teams? And the Roosters, if they want to play finals, they can't drop too many. We're assuming that they beat Parramatta and South, and you'd think to jump into the 8, they're going to have to win at least one of those games against the Dogs or Storm.
Yeah, kind of prove that they deserve to be there.
Dally M, you did mention James Tedesco. When the voting went behind closed doors back in round 12, he was sitting 3rd on 28. Will Kennedy was ahead of him on 29. Luke Metcalf was front runner in 31. Metcalf's gone down. I don't know if Kennedy's form has been as good as what it was in the first 3 months of footy. Behind Teddy was Terrell May, 27, and Katoa and Haas on 23 apiece. Haas missed games with Origin, so
and been dealing with injuries.
So I think you can put a line through him. Yeah. Katoa's a shout.
Sneaky, yep. He's definitely playing well. That Dolphins game against Roosters might be, again, very telling. And May has continued his form basically throughout the year too. So
could you imagine if he won the Dally?
Yeah, after being snubbed, yes. It'd be quite interesting. So, I think Teddy's the favourite out of that. And then the question is who else maybe joins that conversation that was teetering off there. Don't want to be biased to the Raiders, but it might be a Raiders guy that's played the whole year that might, Kyle Weeks maybe gets fullback of the year, but we'll see how he goes for the rest.
I tell you what, if you said to me, Weeks for Dally M a month ago, I would have maybe laughed in your face. But then being at the ground when he's scoring those tries against the Dragons, I was like, Jesus, this guy is one of the most electric players in the comp at the moment. Do I think he's a Dally M this year? No. But he's been an excellent addition for them over the past 2 seasons.
Raiders are probably one of those teams that they've had a different dude stand up for them. So their votes probably get shared a bit more. Like Ethan Strange probably got all the votes for the other night.
Yeah, so, Fogarty would have had a few. Tarpanay gets a few. Yep. Zach Hosking's been incredible for him. I think maybe a few too many guys sharing the votes. And, it'd be nice to see some odds. I don't know how long odds are blacklisted for after that betting scandal a few years ago with the Dally M. But, it would be nice to see if anyone's in the same ballpark as Teddy at the moment or if we can, put his name on the trophy or on the medal for this year already. But month of footy to go. Chomping at the bit for some finals footy. Realistically, there's 9 teams that can make it. Manly got a lot of work to do it from 10th.
A lot.
All right, let's talk some Aussie rules footy. Over in the AFL, there is legitimately 9 teams, and whoever misses out is going to be a really, really good team. So we'll get stuck into that. The top 4 is wide open, and Adelaide have just held on this afternoon after being behind at 3/4 time to West Coast to go outright first. We'll go back to Thursday night. Hawthorn spoilt Steel side bottoms 350th big time. And Colin Wobbles chat is back. They've lost 4 of their last 5. They are in big danger of actually missing the top 4. Yep. They go at Adelaide Oval to take on the Crows next week, and then the D's to finish. So the team that was looking like the best team in the AFL through most of the year in the last month has really become unsettled. And it's interesting, they've probably got the most troops back that they've had all year as well. De Goey's back, Moore's been back at least a month. They've, got McStay and Darcy Cameron and guys that had missed with injury all
Still
there.
got the Dacos in the team. So.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's why you can't, as bad as they've been over the last month, you definitely can't rule them out.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Crows are tough. The D's still have to cash in their sack coach win game card. So
they went close last night.
Yeah, they went close last night. So, those could be tough outs.
Hawthorn legit?
Again, they're one of those young clubs that have turned it around very quickly, and then you question, can they win premiership when they come up against teams like, say, Geelong and Brisbane who've been there recently. So, if they can beat them in the finals, then yes, they can. Of course, they can win. But it's always the same thing we just talked about in the NRL, where it's the Storm and Penrith. You've got the perennial teams that are always there, they're always winning the comp, have the experience now of winning comps, and they're the tough ones you got to get through.
I'm on the Hawks bandwagon now. The bookies have got them at 13. No,
but that's 8th there. In that
there's no one
4,
that you
5,
watch
6, 7
week in, week out that you're like, they're the best team in the AFL. Like even the Crows, who are outright first today,
had a wobble themselves
massively.
Yeah.
They were $1.01 to win that game. They're down at 3/4 time.
Yep.
Geelong have looked beatable at times. Brisbane, we'll get to them in a second. Lost last night.
What'd you say? Was it 8 points that covers the top 8? So 2 games. So
yeah, it's tight.
Close. It's tight.
It's real tight. Geelong beat Essendon by 44 points, but all the talking point around the Cats is how many is Big Jez Cameron going to kick. He went into this game on 75 and he kicked 4 goals 5, so definitely could have gone into the 80s, but he finishes the round on 79. They finish with the Swans and Tigers, so I think there's no doubt he kicks 100 on the season. I think it would be very difficult to do that before the finals start, and the Coleman medals around his neck. Essentially, he's over 20 ahead of was it Ben King or
28? I think quick math that he's ahead, so it's almost 30. Don't want to say he hits 90. It's maybe a tad shy of that. Let's go 88 on the season.
88 on the season, 79 quick maths, and 9 goals in the next 2 games. Yeah, that's about what he's averaging.
Yes.
Ben King and Mitch Georgiades around there. Aaron Norton, actually, who kicked a few last night. I was saying, I saw something. He's got the most goals from a Bulldog since Barry Hall the last 15 years, considering they've won a comp in that time. Pretty good from Norton. Richmond St Kilda, not too much to talk about there. Neither of these teams in the playoff picture.
They stink and only just 100 points between them.
So the Saints win this by 4, but we do have to talk about a couple of weeks ago because we hadn't potted at that stage. The biggest fourth quarter comeback in VFL AFL history. That's a lot of history. 46 points. St Kilda coming back to knock off the D's back in round 20. And Nazaya Wanganeen Miller is a hands down all Australian. The question's starting to become, how good is he? Like, is he a top 10 player? Is he a top 5 player in the AFL? Just absolutely took that game by the scruff of its neck, kicking the last 2 goals in the last 30 seconds or whatever it was. For an incredible comeback. All right, we're going to talk about last night. Did you see a bit of this with the Lions and Swans?
No, I didn't.
So the scoreline probably more flattering than what it was.
Had to chase them down late.
Yeah, chase them down, and they nearly did. So 13 goals, 12, 90 points for Brisbane, 13, 14, 92. The Swans stunned them at the Gabba, and it's one of the big upsets in the last sort of month of footy. We've seen most games sort of play out as predicted. And for the Lions, it could be fraught with danger because they have to go to Perth next week to play Freo at Optus, which is definitely
always tough going west.
And then we're talking about that team that's looking like hot shit.
Yep,
And at least they play them at the Gabba, but they host the Hawks in round 24. There is a world where Brisbane misses the top 8, which is wild.
Yes, would be wild. Wild way to finish things off.
To think the defending champs probably
currently sitting on 60 points, I think.
And probably the deepest midfield, I think, in the comp, and they're paying $8 to win the whole thing, which is third. There's a world where they miss. Yeah. They'd have to lose both those games. I think they win one and they're in. They wouldn't want to leave that to round 24 with that hot Hawks.
Yeah, got to do both those games, of course, without Lachie Neale, who did tear his quad.
So if he's missing game with a quad, you can assume that there's some amount of tearing there. Quads.
So they've said reg season, so it's 3 weeks.
And usually not as bad as doing hammies on the other side. Important for long kicking as a midfielder. It's probably you lose a little bit of your explosivity. I think like for a full forward is probably the worst position to do a quad because of the long kicking. Yep. But I think he should be okay. There is also that little break between round 24 and the first week of finals.
Yeah, it's probably maybe they thought they'd protect him a little bit as well. Shut him down. They know he's not going to. Don't want to like make it worse or anything. Try to.
Well, if you rush him back for the Hawks game and he re-aggravated it, then and you miss that 10-day turnaround or whatever it would be, depending on where they're going to play. I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And get him there for week 1 of finals.
Correct.
Isaac Heaney, this is a pretty crazy stat line, but he's done it 3 times this year. 23 disposals, 5 goals. It's the 3rd time this season that he's had 20 plus, 5 plus. In career best form last year, and probably just that touch behind off his form last year, but still putting up crazy numbers, and he would have had the 3 votes, I'm sure, in that
Am I
one last night.
misremembering? Did he start the season slow, or was he hurt to start the year?
No, he was playing, so they were banged up as anything.
Okay.
With,
overall, the team was started slow.
Yeah, but he's played most of the games that the Swans have played, and just wasn't racking up the votes like he was last year, where he was close to
very, very close
being a Brownlow medalist last year.
Well, he was ruled out, wasn't he, with that
suspension, I believe. Yeah. Carlton lose to the Gold Coast. Nothing surprising there, although they were getting the Baggers' hopes up. They were down 45 points, I think it was, at 3/4 time. Came out and kicked 5 goals in 7 minutes to start the 4th quarter, and then just pretty much didn't have enough in them, left it too little too late. They end up losing by 20-odd there.
Suns got on the bus a bit early.
Yeah, big time. No Charlie Curnow last night, so from what I've read, it's a clean-up of his knee. I'd imagine that's some sort of meniscal clean-up there. He's done for the year. Sam Walsh, Adam Chera also didn't play last night, and there's been lots of Charlie Curnow trade rumours.
Yeah, I think we're talking off-pod about the trade rumours of Willie Wendy, and this clean-up was... Yeah, he's very disgruntled as well, supposedly in some of those trade rumours, whether this is an easy way to sit him out. There's some of that conspiracy floating around too. So, and then of course they had the mammoth 5-hour session to keep Voss, and then reaffirmed him for next season. For going out there and losing another game straight after that, it's maybe not a great look, but it's a tough out going up playing the Suns.
Yeah, Suns are playing good, and they've shown this year that they can actually win away from the Gold Coast. And I actually think it was classy from the club to say, no, you're our man, we're sticking by you. We're sick of all the media frenzy and shit show and every day. And Voss saying, he's getting papped, driving to meetings on Wednesdays and stuff. I'm glad that's that for this year. And look, inevitably there'll be pressure building in April or May next year if they start off poorly. But
true,
another
2 weeks.
Enough for 2025 at least.
Well, let's hope. 2 weeks can change things very quickly, though.
It would be
keep the losing form going, and they might
be a pretty dog act, I reckon, if they've had a 5-6 hour meeting midweek on going into a game which has no finals implications, to then 2 weeks later turn around.
Supposedly it was a unanimous vote by the board. They all agreed to keep him. So
have you looked at his numbers? He's the best Carlton coach this century.
Yeah, it's not a tough crowd to beat him, though. Best of a shit bunch is still shit. So, but I think talking to Steam, like the options with Logmeyer's kind of put his hand down already for the D's job. Nathan Buckley's kind of said he wants it, kind of maybe front runner in that regard. So there is some names out there with value, but I don't know. I don't know if there's a significant enough upgrade to get involved in that conversation. The D's obviously thought there was.
Let's just talk about it now. So Melbourne played Western Bulldogs last night after sacking their coach. It was very, very close to do the old sack your coach and win. Simon Goodwin is only 4 years removed from being a premiership winner. Obviously, a bit of writing on the wall over the last few weeks, but I was surprised when they did pull the pin. Like you said, a few names already were in their hat, and now they're out of the hat in Horse, John Longmire, and Nathan Buckley. So it'll be interesting to see who they go after. I think it might be a first-time AFL coach.
Interesting. Because the rumours were that they sacked Goodwin now instead of letting him see out the season, and so they could start the search early before anyone else to have essentially the pick of the bunch. And supposedly there's like 20 names on that list that they're looking at.
Yeah, it's a massive list.
So,
Have you read it? There's like 5 established AFL coach guys, and then there's heaps of a few names that I've recognised as ex-players and that, but heaps of guys that don't have any head coaching pedigree. So that will be one to watch. And I'm glad the Blues weren't reactionary and just said, shit, Goodwin's gone, let's sack Voss. And, we
got to get in on this before they take our pick. But
just look after their own house and let Melbourne worry about theirs, I think.
Yeah, and we've talked about Max Gawn being frustrated, Petrarca being frustrated, the changeover in the team, and the whole some of the off stuff as well with Oliver. It just seems to be a lot of frustration and unhappiness over there, and maybe that's why they made this move and want a new voice, as they said. But yeah, I don't know if what that looks like. It'd be interesting to see how they turn that squad over.
It does make you wonder how much of the off-season hoopla about there was cultural problems and players unhappy, and I had sort of said, when we're talking about this in March, I was like,
they're professional football players.
Yeah, that's right. And they've won a flag. I'll believe it when I see it, and I think it's pretty evident that it's all played out this year, and there is a bit of disgruntled
season, unfortunately.
Boys in blue and red. That's for sure. Freo, big win at Adelaide Oval last night in a close one. They have had they've been behind, I think, in 5 of their last 6 games in the fourth quarter, and managing to pull out wins. Yeah. So, we think about Collingwood, through the start of this year and last year, very, very good at winning those close games up until the last month. They've swapped with Freo. Freo's the team that keeps winning, by 2 goals or less. So coming into finals, knowing how to dig deep in the fourth quarter is definitely going to be an important asset. Let me see. Yeah, so we spoke about that game against the Lions, which is massive at home for Freo next week. But then they play the Bulldogs in round 24, and that's pretty much a finals game. It will be a finals game for the Dogs.
For the Dogs. They need to win to get in.
They cannot lose that. And if Freo get beat by the Lions next week, that's a finals game for them too. So heaps and heaps of close to finals games in the next 2 weeks in the AFL. GWS beat North Melbourne today here in Canberra. Started off a little bit slow and then did it pretty easily. Did it actually the easiest out of the teams today, with the Dogs and Adelaide just getting over the line. And next week they play at the Gold Coast. Yep. So again, that's pretty much a finals game at least for the Giants. So if the Orange Tsunami want to be there in September, massive one for them next week at People First. And then Adelaide, we mentioned it before, but they're $1.01 to win that game. They were down by a goal at 3/4 time. We haven't seen any of this. It's all sort of played out, sort of pre-show. But they get away with the win there at Optus, and that would have been one of the upsets, probably the upset of the season. Maybe the upset of this decade if the Eagles pulled that off.
Yes.
Brownlow watch, we'll have a look at that before we look at the ladder. So Dacos short now at $3. Jordan Dawson going with him at $3.75. Then a little jump out to the Gold Coast boys in Noah Anderson at $5 and Matt Rowell at 8, and then Bailey Smith there at 10. So pretty much a 2-horse race with a few smokies. I feel like there's always a few surprises come Brownlow night.
Well, I was going to ask you, with the Pies having their month of struggle, do you think that impacts Dacos' chances?
Well, definitely got 0 votes Thursday night. I'd be very surprised if anyone in black and white got a vote in their loss against the Hawks. I'd have to go through and check, is he, in the last month, has he been able to get a point here or two, a vote here or 2 votes over here? Just to keep ticking things over. But his odds haven't blown out so much in the last month to suggest that he's in danger. But the odds, I swear it's never as straightforward as what we expect it's going to be on Brownlow night. We've seen Cripps, famously getting 3 votes when he's had 21 touches in a game, and
there's also that too.
Well, if anything, it might help Nick Dacos.
Yes,
I think particularly the umpire votes. I think they've got so much to concentrate on during the game and not being able to see the game from an elevated position. I think that's where that's often where the often where the fairest comes in, and being the best and fairest.
Who's good in their squad? Lucky now.
So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But definitely, we'll talk about tiers when we get to the NFL. But tier 1, when it comes to Brownlow, is Dacos and Dawson.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
I've got the ladder. We mentioned how tight it is here for the AFL. So Adelaide in outright first on 64, and then we have 3 teams on 60. Geelong, Collingwood, Freo. That rounds out the top 4. Then the 5 through 8 is only separated by 2 points. So Brisbane in 5th on 58, Gold Coast, Hawthorn, GWS on 56, and then the Dogs are in 9th on 52. The Dogs' percentage is 135, which is the 3rd best in the AFL. So that's going to be massive for them, but they have to win both games.
Got to win.
Yeah. So finals now for the Dogs, and then any of those teams pretty much from about Freo down. So Brisbane, Gold Coast, Hawthorn, GWS. You lose 2, you're probably out, and you wouldn't want to look. If you lose 1, then you're probably leaving it up to some other teams.
Yeah, you're doing the mathematical.
Whatever happens, there's going to be a very good team that finishes 9th and misses out.
Yes. Before we get in the NFL, maybe a quick cricket check, because Tim David's rapidly getting closer to another ton. And I think he just hit his 8th 6. He's been hogging the strike, essentially.
Good boy. He was batting with Nathan Ellis, so that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, if he's not hitting it over the fence, he's not running. So
we're up shit creek. This has been sneakily on in the background since the start of the pod, and wickets galore, particularly in the first 10 overs.
Well, the boys were throwing them away. Like Maxi came out and just spoon-fed it down to the rope. And
Mitch Owen, unusual shot when there's a bit of pressure on. And Tim David, he showed that he is one of the best middle order batsmen in white ball cricket in third T20 game in the West Indies.
Did get dropped on the boundary in the last over.
Yeah, that was important note.
Big miss.
And also put one on the roof, I saw not that long ago off a half tracker from whoever their spinner is.
Rolls a strike over. So they've got 3 more overs to go.
7 for 158. So if David's out there in 3 overs time, good chances to hit 190, which is pretty impressive.
Good score after
how we were looking.
After that, wobble in the middle period of the game.
100%. We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll definitely talk about it once we get to the cricket. But we're going to talk NFL next. All right, going to be a massive NFL segment. Definitely one of our favourite sports here. And the month of August is...
Preseason started.
And it's one of the toiest preseasons that there is in sport because you have all of these teams that have a 53-man roster in a few weeks' time. They're all currently...
about 80 at the moment.
Exactly, all currently have about 80. So there's a bunch of guys that will be playing for their spots. A couple of quarterback battles that'll be interesting to see how they unfold. We won't see a whole lot of starters in the next few weeks, but it is always interesting to see the NFL preseason. And for anyone that likes fantasy football, definitely 2 blokes here that love it. It's a massive one to see, particularly how the rookies fare in their first NFL preseason. So I've broken this up in trades, injuries, suspensions for the news, and then we'll get stuck into the fantasy proper. So a couple blokes who have put their hands up saying they're wanting trades.
Demanding trades.
Yeah. Micah Parsons from the Cowboys, Scary Terry McLaurin from the Commanders. You want to start with Parsons maybe?
Yeah, Parsons is probably the most likely of the two to potentially get traded, especially with Jerry Jones as the GM over there, and lots of reports that negotiation's not going very well, and Mike is very not happy. Of course, is in line for a massive extension. I think, what did TJ get? TJ Watt got 3 years, 120, 130 mil, something like that.
I'll find it for you.
So, you think he'd be in some sort of that sort of ballpark, but, Jerry Jones has been talking about his unavailability through some injuries last season where he missed a couple of games and that sort of stuff. But they don't love paying their players. They're also paying Dak fuckloads.
Big money. Yep.
So, they're a bit not stretched, but they've got to manage that salary cap of what they spend offensive versus defense, of course, and Micah would take up a huge chunk of that as mentioned.
TJ Watt signed a record-setting 3-year, $123 million contract extension, making him the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Fair money.
Yeah. So whether he gets around that $40 million a year is the challenge. Of course, he's a little bit younger than TJ is, but also he has been, at his best, been as dominant. So it's a tough one to kind of figure out where he kind of fits. But if anyone was likely to get traded, it'd be him, and it'd be big. Like, it'd be multiple firsts. And
how many? That's what's going to be my next question.
I think good comparison would be clearly Max Deal when they traded him from Raiders, I think it was.
What was Khalil Mack? 3 first rounders?
Yeah, I think it was 2 in year 1 and a third in the following year to make it all happen.
So 2 first rounders almost seems like unders, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot.
For Micah Parsons.
It's a lot.
Cowboys have said that they have no intentions of trading him, but if he's unhappy,
he's holding out, he's not practicing and all that, and so they'll have to see what they make out. Whereas Scary Terry, he's been in and around the club. He has, also been not practicing, but he's been showing up. He's still been hanging out with Daniels. I think that connection's more likely. The issue is he's asking for 30 plus mil, and the big difference is he's 30 plus. I think he turns 31 from memory. Check his age. So you have some guys there that have signed big deals recently. At that 30 mil mark.
He turns 30 next month.
Turns 30 start of the season he turns 30. Sorry, so he hits his 30-year-old season. Whereas I think the guys you got there, Mike is actually
Mike's older than him.
But he's got 20 mil an average there. Wilson, Higgins, both younger. I think.
Look at the money that they paid. Like DK's on both of them 4 years, 130 mil. And
how old's DK? I think he'd be 28. So
he'd be getting there.
The other one was Cortland Sutton. He also
27.
signed. So again, a couple of years younger. Cortland Sutton is probably a better comparison, and he only got 23 mil as an average a year. As an older wide receiver, I think he's 32. Maybe that's where I'm getting my numbers mixed up. Cortland Sutton, not Debo.
You were checking. Sorry. Yeah, what did they pay him? Because he's come across this year as well. So how much have they spent on him?
Maybe he's old deal because it'd be an old one. So it's not as much, 17 mil for this season. So I don't think he gets that 30. I don't think he gets Cortland's 23. I think they kind of sign him for say 28.
25.
Average, and that'll make him happy. He doesn't quite get the 30 plus of the young fellas, but he's that's kind of a nice middle ground, and he'll show back up for the Commanders. And I think that'd be huge for Jalen Daniels because I don't think they want Debo to be their sole wide receiver because I'm a bit hesitant on Daniels for a sophomore regression at the moment. A bit worried he's going to be CJ Stroud a little bit this year, but
that's a big regression.
Yeah, but those legs will probably protect him for fantasy people, so we'll see.
I've got Scary Terry's numbers up there, and talk about Mike Evans. Scary Terry's close to Mike Evans, just a few years behind, doesn't quite have double digits.
Consecutive.
The ceiling is not high with him. The most receiving yards he's had in a year is 1,191, so he's not going to give you a 1,600 yard season. But his lowest was his rookie year, 919 receiving yards. So
he averaged about 80 catches a year with 1,000.
Call it 1,100. And last year had the touchdowns that come in with probably his best quarterback play that he's had in his career with 13 touchdowns. And on top of that, the durability of him. He missed a couple games in 2019 and 2020, but the last 4 years he's played 17 games. So he knows how to stay injury-free. Man, if I'm the Commanders, I'm giving him close to 30 million, I reckon, to try and keep him happy and give them a true wide receiver one. Because like you said, Debo coming across, different system, had a bit of a regression, a few injuries for him. I think the Commanders would be remiss to not pay
he's a different
Scary Terry.
Yeah, Debo gives them a different role, kind of. I don't want to say gadgety kind of guy, but he plays a different, interesting sort of role for them. You don't want him to be your one trying to carry it.
Some injuries. So probably the biggest injury of note, definitely the scariest one, was Maurice Norris from the Lions.
Face.
Really unusual type mechanism. Safety, running back breaks the line and gets to the second level. He sort of throws his body out and looked like a knee, like sort of whiplash, hyper extension of his neck.
Just the whole running back running through his face.
And went completely limp and then unfortunately showed some seizure activity. Really nice response from the Falcons sideline in particular, getting the stretcher out and getting him to the ambulance and has been cleared of cervical fracture, I believe. So that's obviously the big scary thing is, has the bloke broken his neck? What's his spinal cord like? Does he have movement in his arms? So the seizure is obviously very scary, and Damar Hamlin sort of comes to mind, although that was cardiac, but similar sort of life-threatening type.
It was a bad one.
Stuff
Definitely.
playing out on the field, but it looks like he's avoided anything really, really nasty, and the game actually got called off.
Yeah, they snapped the ball and ran the clock out essentially for the last 14 minutes of the game, and yes, preseason week 1, like it's a nothing. Like it means
it's a nothing game.
It means nothing. So they'd had enough at that point. So it's fine to call it.
Prayers up for him. Hopefully, full recovery kind of stuff there. Some less scary, more run of the mill, but still season enders. We've seen a fair few
ACLs,
knees,
Achilles already.
There's patella tendon with
I think
Rashawn Slater.
I think the Finns secondary is basically wiped out by ACLs. So I'm surprised the amount of those type of injuries already early in the season. So it's been quite interesting to, wake up and you check the news and see who's done an injury overnight during training camp. So yeah, it's been a bit tough for NFL fans.
Well, apples and oranges, but we're just coming off an NBA playoffs, which was wrought with Achilles ruptures. And we've seen a couple Achilles as well. Martin Emerson was a starting corner for the Browns last year, so he's going to miss the season. That Rashawn Slater out is massive for the Chargers, who looking to set up a pretty dominant offensive line. So Joe Alt's going to go over to the left.
The switch
and
sides.
You got in the notes there, he just signed a massive deal, had he, Slater?
Yeah, it's 2 weeks ago he signed a 4-year extension for like 120 or just under it.
Big money.
Mil. So big money for him. Well deserved. He's been playing excellent, but again, just in training camp, just going backwards and ruptured his patella tendon.
That's a nasty knee injury, that one, especially for a big guy.
Oh yeah.
Some less nasty, but some question marks around these guys for week 1. Khalil Shakir, high ankle sprain, but not needing surgery. So the dreaded syndesmosis surgery, he's avoided that, but he's going to be day-to-day, week-to-week. So bear that in mind for drafting, although probably not going to miss much time if you do pick up Khalil Shakir. Same thing with Jaden Reed, different injury. They've said sprained foot, but Matt LaFleur was saying they're hopeful again for week 1 there.
Was in the boot today.
Yep. And then Tyjae Spears, he's the backup at the Titans.
Him and Pollard are 50-50. This will be important for fantasy later, but yeah.
I want to know how bad that high ankle is as well.
Exactly.
Is that going to be a Cindy surgery or is it a grade 1 and he's going to be okay for week 1, week 2? So a few little ones just to keep an eye on there, but nothing crazy for any of those players there, and Shakir, Spears and Reed. An interesting one as well with AR-15, Anthony Richardson, who I'm not even convinced is going to be the starting quarterback for the Colts.
They tried to start him and he lasted a drive and a half, I think it was.
Dislocated his pinky finger.
Yeah, it was a bad dislocation. Should be fine. I think they said day-to-day it was not a fracture or anything like that, so they just popped it back in. I think the bigger worry was the fact that he completely missed the coverage protection and the blitz coming off the edge unprotected and got absolutely blown up. And you've probably all seen the video of that. So, likelihood Daniel Jones I think will be a starter, which is probably going to be great for, say, Ty Warren later. And we'll talk about tight ends for fantasy. I think he's going to be peppered with all the targets. But you said there was a young fellow as well.
Yeah, Riley Leonard, they drafted out of Notre Dame.
What round they drafted him in?
5th, maybe?
Fifth, yeah.
Didn't spend big draft stock on him, but I think there's a less than 0 chance that Riley Leonard starts some games for the Colts this year. If Richardson or Jones is struggling, I think the Colts will struggle a little bit too, but they're kind of a little bit lucky in that their division, the Titans probably aren't going to be great and the Jags are maybe fringe. So, I'm not convinced about Anthony Richardson at all. We're talking about last year, 12 months makes a big difference. I thought coming into his second year, has all the talent with his legs, one of the most physically gifted guys that we've seen come out of the draft in recent memory. But these are his numbers from last year. 1,800 pass yards. He completed at 48%, which is a good 10% lower than the next guy who regularly started, which was Michael Penix Jr.
To be good in the NFL, you have to be 60
plus.
Yeah.
So he's way behind there from an accuracy perspective. Just the 8 passing touchdowns, 12 INTs. yeah, he's going to have to prove it in the next few weeks, that's for sure.
Definitely.
In terms of that injury, yeah, looked nasty, but I don't think it's going to affect throwing mechanics all that much.
Probably buddy tape it at worst, so yeah, I think it'd be fine.
Welcome to the chat, William30. Has mentioned that there is Supercoach this year for the NFL. The first time that the Aussie Run company is doing that. It's the exact same format, like in terms of how it looks. If anyone's played NRL Supercoach, so you can do that for the NFL. But yeah, when we talk fantasy, we'll be talking more in the traditional fantasy sense of having a draft, 10-man, 12-man league. We'll get to that in just a second. Got a little bit more to get through from the preseason. There's a few suspensions. One's already been confirmed. Jordan Addison will miss the first 3 weeks.
He's speeding.
So keep that in mind if you're looking at drafting Jordan Addison for fantasy. And then there's some ones that are likely but haven't been announced just yet. Rashee Rice had that car incident last year.
Yeah, before the start of last season.
And still waiting. And the Chiefs have said that they're expecting 4 to 6 weeks suspension for him.
Yeah, I think they've sorted out the trial. I think it was all... it's not community service, but it was essentially like they gave him 12-month suspended sentence kind of thing, pay a fine, etc. And so the legal stuff's been sorted, and then what do they turn that into suspension-wise? So, like I said, 4 to 6. And the other one, Quinshon Judkins. The DV, I think, for him.
So this is bad.
This is a bad one. He's still awaiting trial. They haven't signed him yet because because he's a second rounder, and with all the second rounders getting all guaranteed deals, and they don't really want to do that if they got like a bad thing like this. I'm trying to think. I think Ray Rice is probably the only one that comes to mind for RBs, but it's not good.
And
big
danger for fantasy as well. So we'll get to, I think we're mentioning him in the fantasy
section.
I
think so. I think it's a solid avoid because even if because they've been trying to fast track the trial and it won't happen.
Yep.
So the likelihood is he might even need to sit out a large portion of the season because they won't sign him because of this. Or the Browns will take the risk, sign him, and then he'll play some of it, and then we'll see how the trial goes, and maybe it's next season's suspension. But the suspension, the rumoured is anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks. So they're like it'll be a big suspension if and when they sort out the legal stuff.
And fair play as well. Why should it be fast track? Like, just because you're
the NFL's trying to get exactly. They're trying to get the roll on, trying to get a result.
Something criminal
money
like that. Just
greases the wheels, but it's one of those things.
Some other things out of the preseason. We saw a 70-yard field goal.
Would have set the record by 4 yards, but it's in the preseason, so don't count.
That's crazy. That is so long.
Yeah,
remember when 60 seemed outrageous?
Yeah,
70 for Cam Little.
So he said, don't worry about it. There'll be more 70s coming up.
He reckons he's got it in him.
Yeah.
Little by name, not little by nature, at least with his kick distance. And what happened with the reference CD Lamb?
Oh, well, CD Lamb didn't dress, of course, so he didn't play in the preseason game. So he's just on the sideline. But he was celebrating a deep ball where I'm not sure who the Cowboy was, but it was open. So he looks away from the play, which ends up in an incompletion, which is hilarious. But the ref running down the field, of course, following the deep ball, doesn't see him being in, like on the sideline, but too close to the field of play, and just run straight in the back of him. So CD Lamb didn't even play, but he took the biggest hit in the Cowboys game today. So it's a bit of funny bit of memes in that.
15-yard penalty on the ref for striking, for targeting.
He was penalised though because he was obstructing a ref, so he got a penalty as well.
Just on the sideline.
Yeah.
Poor fella.
So they set them back, and then as I said, he's celebrating the deep ball, which I think was dropped. Overall, big meme for Cowboys. They're in prime. Early season form for themselves.
So a big week in the preseason in the NFL. Few guys looking for trades. Micah Parsons, Terry McLaurin. Fair few injuries. No massive names. I suppose Rashawn Slater probably the biggest name to have a season ender. And a few guys.
There's a lot of good quality starters as well that have also done injuries, and a lot of fans will know if their guys been going down. So fingers crossed for the next 2 and a bit weeks. Of preseason as they lead up to the start of the season, that most guys get through it all healthy.
Don't have your fantasy draft next weekend. Got to wait.
Wait
Couple
until the week
weeks.
before.
Even if you are real horny for fantasy football. Sean, you've got a few graphics lined up for this next section. Do you need to get one of them up on the screen?
Yeah, well, we can jump in it. We'll talk NFL fantasy, and I guess the starting point is philosophy. So what's my draft philosophy, as you will? So I started thinking of teams and where I thought they'd be based on will they play playoffs? I just asked myself the simple question: do I think this team's going to play playoffs?
And I looked at your list pre-show, and I think I agree with you with pretty much everyone, although there might be one that's a little bit biased, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's go to your unequivocally bad teams. Got teams that you're pretty confident that won't be playing playoffs.
Yes. So Finns, Jags, Browns, Cowboys, Saints, Bears, Raiders, Giants, Colts, Jets, Titans, Patriots, and Panthers to round out the big half of the league.
13 teams up there.
Yeah.
Call it a third of the league.
A third of the league. I just think these teams are too far away. And when I look at these teams, if you think of fantasy and who you should draft, avoid these teams at all costs. And if you have to draft from these teams, pick the best player that's on the team.
CeeDee Lamb probably getting drafted, I'd say.
Yes, exactly. So, but if you're looking at that team as like anyone else outside of that, the running backs, man. If you have to pick from the Cowboys, pick CeeDee Lamb as a good example. Like these are the teams that either have quarterback issues, quarterback questions, or will struggle, or they have some offensive talent but they have no defensive talent. So that they're just not teams that I consider playoff teams.
I think you've been a little harsher than probably what I would have been. I think I sent in our group chat. I probably would have the Cowboys up as a fringe team. I think the Raiders could potentially be a fringe team this year. I could see the Jags or the Bears being a fringe team.
I can definitely see the arguments for it, but I was be very hard cut, and there's things, of course, for each of the clubs that I don't love, which kind of was why I pushed them out, because I'm trying to fill a small selection of playoff spots and what teams that I think those will be.
Yeah, I think any of these teams that have got massive quarterback questions, I think the Saints will be horrendous. I think the Browns will be horrendous. I was just speaking about the Colts. I don't think they'll be much good. Yep. Cam Ward's got a lot to show.
Bad team that he's going to have to build. They're not going to. I don't think they just turn around and instantly be a playoff team.
We saw shades from the Panthers and Patriots last year, but fairly difficult.
All teams that
divisions.
kind of been bad got their quarterback last year need to grow, and that's just don't think they're ready for playoffs.
Who you got up in your fringe level?
So the guys probably competing more for playoff spots. So if I run through it, Cards, Steelers, Seahawks, and Falcons down the left there, and then I've got Packers, Vikings, Texans, Buccaneers, Chargers, and 49ers. And I'd say that left group is on the bottom side of that. And I'd say these other five, I can see them probably switching with maybe some of the playoffs.
That's why you got the Packers right over on the right.
Yeah,
there, mate. They're a playoff
I
team.
did. I put Packers and Vikings there because I kind of thought them a bit higher, and then Texans, their line just sucks balls. So division helps them, of course. Yeah. But it's just where they kind of fit in.
Same thing with the Bucks as well.
Bucks, same with Chargers as well.
Yeah.
It's going.
I was saying the Bucks and Texans kind of similar in they're both probably the best team in the South.
Yes.
They're probably. I could see both of those teams playing playoffs, but I agree. I don't think they're 100%. These teams will be playoff teams.
Yeah. So for these, if you're looking at these teams, these are fringe teams that have more talent overall than the other teams. So they're good places to actually target picks because they have, they'll be good teams. They'll be in quality games. They'll be able to score points, but they don't also have massive amount of mouths to feed. Whereas the playoff teams, like the guaranteed teams, have a lot bigger spread. So it's embarrassment of riches. Essentially, it's a bit harder to actually pick a guy that maybe excels. Whereas these kind of fringe teams, less talent, it makes it a bit easier for them to pick from.
Yeah, almost easier in some regards. Like Nico Collins from the Texans comes to mind. They don't have heaps of mouths to feed there. You think about Josh Jacobs, the running back at the Packers. He's going to get the ball shoved down his throat. Think about Christian McCaffrey if he's healthy at the 49ers.
Yeah, exactly. Him and Kittle.
Exactly.
That's kind of it. They've got a couple guys versus if we get to some of our playoff teams.
Like the Lions come to mind.
Exactly. So I've got these 5 in a grouping, and I'll call them the Ravens, Lions, Kansas City, Eagles, and Bills. They're my 5 definites. I think without a doubt those teams will play in the playoffs. Regarding unless like their quarterbacks get kidnapped between now and then. So they're the teams that I think are definite.
Full disclosure: Sean is a massive Broncos homer, and I wouldn't have the Broncos as a definite as long as they're in the same division as the Chiefs. So I do think they're probably a playoff team.
Yeah. So we talked about. Yeah, that's probably the point there. We talked about the 5 in the fringe teams, and then I've got these 4 being the Broncos, Commanders, Bengals, and Rams that could, jump up and down between those fringe teams. I kind of put Denver up here purely on defense. I put the Bengals up in here purely on offense because their defense stinks. Yep. Rams, big question mark at the moment with Matthew Stafford and how he's happening. They've been talking about putting epidurals in his back, and I've seen all the memes about you should just do it natural. He's got to harden up. So, yeah, a bit of that floating around. And with the Commanders, they're an old team, and I'm a bit worried about the Jan Daniels regression, but I also kind of think they're good enough to, again, lock down a spot. So that's kind of where our playoff teams. But those 5, and, you look at these teams, probably outside Denver, and that's probably why I've got a few more picks for Denver of guys that may be drafting. These guys have a lot of talent, a lot of mouths to feed, so it's a little bit harder. But I probably should have done a graph up of, the bad teams. There's like one guy that could give you a really high ceiling, but all the rest of the guys have really low floors.
Yep.
Your fringe teams, probably a little bit higher ceiling, but have a much higher floor because there's less competition. Whereas these guys have high floor, but their ceilings might come down and close off because they have such spread for the team. So just thinking about where the teams potentially could go and the actual amount of quality they have really helps define like where to kind of target, what sort of teams to target. Me personally, I've set my rule of do not draft anyone from the Browns. They fucking suck balls. As previous torment, yes, exactly. Previous torment to myself.
Every morning you wake up.
Yeah,
Jerry Judy made the top 100. No, not going to take the bait. David and Joker, who does it every year.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that sort of thinking is where it kind of led to where I want to discuss the skill positions. And we'll start with wide receivers.
Just quickly, before we get into the wide receivers, I just wanted to make a point of the superstar guys in the league. Nearly all of them are playing on these teams.
Yes.
All right. So the tier 1 of quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen on these teams. They're some of the best running backs in the league outside of Bijan. Yep. We've got Saquon here. We've got Derrick Henry here. We've got Jahmyr Gibbs all playing for these teams. The Triple Crown winner last year in Jamar Chase, hands down, 101 in a lot
some of the best offensive lines, defenses, etc.
Yeah, Puka Nacua. He hasn't shown shades of his old self, but arguably the best football player in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. So a lot of the superstars coming from
the Chiefs are the interesting one because like their defense is good, their offense is old. Well, Kelsey's old, their line's maybe not as good, and then we talked about Rice and his potential suspension, and they've got to find some wide receivers, besides Worthy to help support. That team's purely there because Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. Like that. That is just.
And it may be a bit healthier than last year too. When we get Isaiah Pacheco back, and
that'll be a big help.
But let's get into it. So we're going through the skill positions. We are starting off with wide receivers, and the way that we're going to do it is guys to avoid or got some big question marks around them, guys that you like, and a little emphasis on some of the rookies.
Yeah, definitely. And I tried not to focus on the obvious shit. So, if a guy, first rounders, second
Lamar
rounders.
Jackson's going to be good.
Yeah, like mostly. Like for the wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, he's going to be good. Most of the guys in the top 10 for wide receivers, you pick them, they'll be fine. If they get injured, that happens. But, that's usually why they bust, is because they got hurt. So outside of that, if you're kind of looking around and what you're trying to figure out what to do, let's start off with some avoids. So Jerry Jeudy, I don't want to say that, his 1,000 yards last year was a little bit... what am I going for? Is not hidden.
Fluky.
Not fluky, but maybe over-exaggerated because he did have that massive game against Denver. 200, which makes up a huge portion of what he did for the season. But quarterback question marks are huge. Flacco's probably going to start. Sanders looks like he played pretty well in the preseason, but they just signed Huntley to add to the squad because Gabriel and Pickett injured. Like that QB room is what the fuck? Just,
Crazy.
Again, Browns, leave them alone. Stay away.
How many quarterbacks are they going to run out their roster? Because
You'd think two.
Most NFL teams have
and
two, maybe three.
Maybe they try to sneak one of the rookie dudes onto the practice squad, but it'll be tough.
I don't know if you can carry four into your 53-man squad.
No. Because you want players at other positions. So, yeah, I think it's very tough. Zay Flowers is probably an interesting one out of this, but I think Ravens have gone with Dad's Army. Let's call it that. And I feel like Lamar, where the big touchdowns go, Mark Andrews got 11 last year. They brought Hopkins across, big target in the red zone. That's where the touchdowns go. They're inside the 20, Derrick Henry's getting the ball. So, though Zay Flowers probably gets 1,000 yards and maybe 70 receptions this year, I don't think for his value. I look elsewhere, is what I'm saying. I'm avoiding him and looking elsewhere.
1,000 yards might be a good season. You know, he might be looking at 700 or 800 yards. Yep. And if he's only catching 4 or 5 touchdowns and you after, his ADP is probably, 5th or 6th round.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah.
Again, I'm looking to avoid and elsewhere. I'm looking elsewhere.
Out of these 4 guys that you've got, I like a lot of caution with these 2 on the left.
Yep.
2 on the right's interesting. You run me through them.
Well, Olave, quarterback.
Yep.
I think by all accounts, it's probably going to be Rattler unless they find someone else.
Well, they got Tyler Shuck, who they drafted,
who has been kind of dreadful so far. So yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. Add to that, concussions is a big concern with Olave. So again, I'm kind of avoiding. I want to see a year of healthy football out of him, and I want to see some decent quarterback play before I consider him again. He's a kind of ignore for this year. See what he looks like next season.
Agree. I think the quarterback play there is probably the big question. Yeah. Skill-wise, Olave really good.
Yes, definitely. I agree. Tyreek Hill, on the other hand, interesting, getting older. I think he's 32. Dealt with a wrist injury all of last year. Had some questionable comments for the Finns.
Gave up on them in their last game.
Yeah, exactly. Tua, you got to believe in his health. They're much better with him, but then he's also kind of been struggling with the deep ball of late, which is a big thing for Hill and the way he plays. So I have a lot of concerns for him, and I feel like last year was maybe the start of regression. And
pretty ordinary last year.
Yeah, and I feel like there's probably an upswing on another player in this team that maybe will take over more of the reins in that. So I'm kind of avoiding Tyreek again because he's going semi-early, like he's 3rd or 4th round, depending on your draft size. But again, I think the
ADP does sort of reflect some of your concerns. He's not a top 10 receiver this year. True. So in years past, he's probably a top 5 receiver, even higher in some of those crazy years. Yeah. Whereas the ADP's got him at sort of wide receiver 14, 15, which I feel like I'd be a bit more bullish than perhaps you would. But certainly some legitimate concerns.
Yeah, but I definitely have the concerns there. And I maybe looking elsewhere in that spot to maybe get a more core guy that I have less concerns with.
Yep.
So, again, high ceiling could be very low floor, and you maybe get something in between there.
Yeah, of those 4 guys pictured, and you're going to get to 2 more, definitely I think it has the highest ceiling.
Yep. The other 2 avoids, DJ Moore over there at the Bears. Kind of interesting. I want to see a Williams improvement. I want to see how they implement the Ben Johnson system. But they also have, again, the additive more talent to try and build around Williams there and Loveland. And I'm just not sure from what I'm hearing that I'm super excited where the Bears are at currently. So I'm a little bit worried. And again, I'm kind of avoiding DJ Moore and looking elsewhere.
One of the toughest divisions of football as well. I say that as a Packers fan, but I don't think too many people disagree. And, the Bears, you'd think on paper are probably in a better position than where they have been in the last few years. Yep. But you're under the Lions, Packers, Vikings twice a year. Yeah. It's going to be hard, and we'll get to Roma Dunze in a second. I don't think you take the 9th pick overall in the draft if you don't want to get him a bunch of ball.
Yeah, yes. I'm talking about touchdowns for him specifically. I think
didn't have many last year.
Didn't have many, but he had a lot of targets. I think it's a big difference. Yep. So I think that's the translation. But we'll finish here with the avoids, and I've got Devontae Adams actually up there purely on what I said before about Matthew Stafford and his back. He's not getting any younger, and maybe I'm hitting this cable. That's what's happening. He's not getting any younger, but I think that's the concern I have there, and they have a lot of talent. There's another bloke on the other side of the field that's going to get a lot of ball. And
do you have any concerns? He's not pictured, but do you have any Puka concerns given that he is a top nearly 5 wide receiver?
I think he'll get plenty of ball and probably gets better looks with Adams in that squad. But I think Adams plays a lot bigger second fiddle to him than he had done. Like Adams was still pretty good last year for the Jets and still was putting up decent-ish numbers. But I think he's more of a role guy here for the Rams. And again, I'm kind of looking elsewhere at the moment.
I agree pretty much with both of these guys, but particularly with Adams. His ADP is like a top 20 receiver.
Yeah.
And for him to be a wide receiver 2 at his age and, go out and have 1,000 yards, I don't know if I see it happening.
Yeah, agree. Let's talk about some dudes to draft. Brian Thomas is probably a no-brainer. Again, we're talking about bad teams. He's just a really, really good wide receiver. And if Trevor Lawrence is going to do anything, it's going to go through Brian Thomas. They do remove Kirk and Davis, I think, out of that lineup and add Hunter. So, Hunter's probably going to do a lot of work underneath and hopefully free up a lot of good looks for Thomas.
How many snaps is he going to play as well?
There's that too.
Is he playing 50% of offense or is he playing 90%? Because that probably affects your Thomas.
I kind of feel he's probably a better wide receiver than his corner. So I think he'd play more on the offensive side for Hunter playing on the offensive side, which I think probably helps Thomas a little bit too. So
it might free him up a bit.
Exactly. I think Thomas is going to get plenty of ball and plenty of targets. And if I'm looking at the Jags team and I'm looking at who's the best player for me to pick from a fantasy perspective, it's Thomas.
Can we go back to his rookie numbers? Insane numbers for 2 rookies last year, him and Malik Neighbours being the other. 87 receptions, 1,282 yards, 10 touchdowns as a rook. He was wide receiver 4 in PPR fantasy last year.
Love him.
Yeah, love him. And ADP, he might be going as the 9th or 10th receiver. I agree with you. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a good target.
Yep. And then Drake London there.
We've finally seen it for Drake London last year, didn't we?
And, the 3 games small sample size with him and Penix last year, he had ridiculous amount of targets. They peppered him with targets. So I'm expecting him to get a lot of ball thrown his way. Unsure, don't stay away from Kyle Pitts. He's burnt you more than once. So I think this is where the ball goes. Mooney's a bit banged up at the moment. I think the way they'll play is play action off Robinson and hope London's open. That's the game plan for the Falcons.
He had 100 catches last year, 1,271 yards, 9 touchdowns. He was wide receiver 5, just behind the aforementioned Brian Thomas. And ADP-wise as well, you might get him around about the 10th sort of value for a wideout. I like Drake London.
Yeah, I definitely. I like Rashid Rice next, purely on his small sample size last year. I think he has such a great connection with Mahomes that he is value if stashed. And, again, we don't know about the suspension. There's a big caveat with his suspension.
This is the first risk.
Yeah, there's risks there. But I think just the value to that team, considering Kelsey's old, Worthy plays a different style of ball. Hollywood Brown, I think, is not washed, but he's more a role guy now. I just don't think he's, a wide receiver 1 capability. And they added, I think it was Stanley, who's almost a if you combine some of Rice's game and some of Worthy's game together, is his capability. And I kind of like him as well in that Chiefs team. Did I get the name right is the question?
Jalen Royals?
Royals. Yeah, Jalen Royals was the wide receiver they added in the 4th or 5th round this year. So, and has some of that, he has good speed, but more Rice size than, say, what Worthy does. But I think if the best quarterback in the comp's going to have to pepper someone with balls, I think it's going to be Rice, as we saw the first month of last year. And I, fully agree, big recoveries should be fine after the long layoff. Depending on the suspension, I really like him. Is it like a mid-tier late guy going?
Yeah, you have spoken about it, the small sample size, but the first month of football last year, Travis Kelce was close to irrelevant because this guy was getting so much target share. And if we have a generational quarterback throwing him the ball and he doesn't cop too long a suspension, but for mine, there's probably a bit too much risk. And you're not saying go out and get him in the second round.
Yeah, first round.
But if Rice is still available on the fourth or fifth, and you're happy to stash him, he could really come good when you need him as well. Which is,
and hopefully we get maybe some more clarity over the next week or two.
That is true.
So just one to monitor, but again, I think he's very good at football, not at driving Lambos.
You have now a couple of guys who have been wide receiver 2s, but you might see them becoming the wide receiver 1 in their role.
So that's the growth. Jonas Smith gone from Finns, got a heap of ball last year.
He was tight end 4 last year, Jonas Smith.
Yeah. So, those targets got to go somewhere. And if I'm kind of feeling a bit of a hill regression, I'm thinking a Wattle ascension, essentially. So that's why I'm, again, another guy that's kind of middle in those draft spots. I would rather throw a dart at it. Again, of course, health for Tua is a big part. They will have Kyle Wilson as the backup for them, so they have a better backup overall if anything does happen to Tua. I think I'm liking Waddle where he's going at the moment.
I hope nothing happens to Tua because they're just about...
Zach Wilson. What did I say, Kyle? Zach.
That's all right. There's lots of Kyle's getting around in America.
Actually, I've got to speak the Jalen Jadens. Oh, my God. Dude. I was what happened 20 years ago that every kid had to be named that?
J names. We'll get to quarterbacks in a second, but the top 5 quarterbacks, you have Lamar Jackson, who's an L, but then you have Josh Allen, you have Joe Burrow, you have Jaden Daniels, you have Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
So lots of J names in the last 20 to 25 years, that's for sure.
Well, I was looking at the Texans. They had Jalen and Jaden. They drafted as rookie wide
receivers. You watched the NBA recently? There's 2 guys came Jalen Williams on the Thunder. Yeah, so lots of Jalen's.
I have to go back 20 years and see what happened. What happened in the early noughties that it just exploded.
So you like Waddle, and then flick over to the next slide. You like Rome Odunze.
Yeah, Rome Odunze, purely because of what I mentioned earlier about the targets. So I think he had 11 red zone targets last year. I'm trying to work out where's Ben Johnson going to funnel touchdowns to, because they showed some of pulling Swift out and putting DJ Moore in at running back, and he's a bit quirky with how he does his offensive scheme and what he's going to do. So it's just trying to figure it out, and I think the big body in Rome Odunze is the target. So I'm looking for a touchdown. Because you can't really regress, a touchdown explosion for him. And that's, maybe he gets, again, 70-odd receptions and flirts with 1,000 receiving yards. But if he can get 10 touchdowns, that's where he bumps up his numbers. So I kind of like him as well in that middle rounds at his ADP too, with that hope of slight Williams expansion, like improvements, and he may be benefiting from that. And like you said earlier, he was picked 9 or 8 for a reason.
Yeah, I don't think you pick guys that high if you don't think they're incredibly talented, which I don't have any question marks around. I do have some question marks around mouths to feed.
Yes.
So DJ Moore, you mentioned they drafted Luther Burden, so they drafted
He has more like a Deebo Samuels kind of to his game. He's a bit more gadgety. I think Loveland and having Cole Cement there, they're going to probably run a lot of 2 tight end looks as well. So DJ Moore and Odunze are probably the guys outside in those looks. But they're going to be. But again, I don't know what Ben Johnson's going to do. that offense could be anything.
For our Aussie listeners who might not be familiar, Ben Johnson was the offensive coordinator at the Lions last year. He's
managed to make all those mouths get fed.
Definitely,
well enough, so,
definitely. I've just for mine, probably a few too many question marks. Guy that you've got here next to him, Jacoby Myers, looks like he'll be out and out the number 1 at the Las Vegas Raiders, who, in terms of wideouts at least, don't have a plethora of talent. They do have a guy called Brock Bowers who'll get a whole lot of targets.
So that's a question. Outside of Brock Bowers, who's getting the other 300 targets that they're potentially going to throw? Because the Raiders last year had the most pass attempts of any team, and they have changed quarterback, so they did add Geno Smith,
who's a handy quarterback. They've also got a very run-heavy coach and drafted a running back 6 overall.
Yes. So, they kind of, again, if you look at the Seahawks teams of Tyler Lockett and DK, if Myers is more your Tyler Lockett in that, I still think he's going to get plenty of ball, and he was surprisingly really good last year as well, even in that Raiders team. I think Thornton has kind of come out of nowhere, but is more a early deep threat. Big, long, lanky dude that's kind of improving day on day in, and really didn't get a chance to shine in college. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes. Likely he also will be peppered with a fair few red zone chances, but I think he'll be more touchdowns than receptions. I think Myers is your safe hands that is going to get you first down.
They also drafted a receiver in the second round called Jack Besh, who might be a look at in the very late rounds or if you're in a keeper league. But I love this pick from you. His ADP is sort of mid-range. And, I think he's the clear wide out there in Las Vegas and has got an upgrade at quarterback.
Yep.
Speaking of some rookies, you do have some listed here.
3 rookies I really like. Trey Harris to start with. There is probably a slight caveat to that now with Keenan Allen coming back and joining that club. But I think I'm probably a little bit more concerned for Ladd that Allen affects him a bit more than it does Harris, because I think Harris is going to steal Johnston's job and be your big outside wide receiver. Ladd plays a slot. He played heavily out of the slot, but Keenan, I think Ladd was like 75% McConkey out of the slot last year. And Allen played like 50% out of the slot last year for the Bears, but has played a lot out of slot position. So I feel like there might be a bit more impact there of the wily vet kind of playing in there. So very interesting team to follow. Again, a run heavy focused coach there. Wide receiver, 3 wide receiver looks maybe limited a little bit, but they did open the offense up towards the back end of last year and let Herbert cook essentially, and that's where Ladd McConkey kind of exploded. So I really like Trey Harris coming out of the draft in this series. I think he's in a good spot, and I kind of think he's going to steal Johnson's job and surprise a lot of people.
I think possibly the most prolific receiver coming out of the draft is Emeka Ibuka, who broke all kinds of records at Ohio State. And he actually goes into a relatively favourable situation to start off with, given that Chris Godwin's likely to miss the first little bit of football.
Yeah, they think he might be ready for week 1, but he's probably going to be rusty coming back in.
Horrific injury last year.
So it's pretty interesting conversation because I think the biggest issue for him is he didn't test athletically as great as some of the others did, but his separation was so much better than anyone else. If you watch any of the tape for wide receivers, and he's dominated camp so far. And a lot of people are talking about he's more a replacement for Evans than to get a upgrade or a replacement over Godwin. It's like Evans isn't getting any younger, and he's it'll be how long does he want to play for? So if he plays another 2 seasons, maybe at that point they switch over. They've got McMillan there as well, who had a pretty big year, but I think he's going to fit in very early to that role. And if Baker's going to throw 40-plus touchdowns again this year, which I feel like he's probably due for a regression, I think he's one of those rookies you can pick, again, a bit later on in the draft. That's probably going to get some early volume and see how he fits in. And maybe, like Godwin's been paid good money. They extended him, but he's obviously coming off the injury, where he kind of fits in and how he kind of steals some of their job there. I think he's going to get a decent amount of ball.
The other guy that you've got on screen there is Jaden Higgins, who joins a Texans team who had a little bit of regression last year with CJ Stroud, but the year before managed to feed a lot of mouths offensively and from a receiving perspective. He's not going to be the wide receiver 1, obviously, with Nico Collins, and they do bring in Christian Kirk, but second round pick and likely to still get a bit of early target share. What are your thoughts around him?
Yeah, well, they bring Kirk across, but he's more a Tank Dell replacement because Dell's not going to play this season. He'll miss the whole year. Nico Collins, he's going to get all the ball, but he needs a wide receiver too. And Jaden Higgins kind of fits that mold perfectly as a big outside threat that can run a 4 or just under it from memory. So he's another guy that's going to probably get a lot of ball, and they're going to probably have to pass a lot in for that team because their running backs are banged up. The offensive line isn't real great. So they're a team that's probably going to have to be in a few shootouts. So I'm looking for an improvement back to the mean maybe for Stroud. So I think he's going to have to throw a lot of ball around.
The 2 first rounders that you don't have pictured there are different ends of the spectrum. Tedoroa McMillan is likely to be the wide receiver 1 for the Panthers. You will pay for that from an ADP perspective.
Yeah, and I don't love it because you're kind of hoping that 4 weeks of Bryce Young is what he's going to be for the whole season, which before that he wasn't real great and they were kind of flip-flopping. And I think Mike McMillan's good, but I kind of had him more compared to what Cortland Sutton puts out. Like I think they have a very comparable game set. So I'm in a wait-and-see mode. He's one of those guys that's like you're getting drafted based on – he's getting overdrafted ADP based on his draft position, and I'd rather wait and see a season.
Big body. I think he'll get some red zone targets, but yeah, you'll probably have to pay for it in the draft. And then a guy who's probably, you're not going to be throwing too many darts at Matthew Golden. I think just way too many mouths to feed in that Green Bay offense. He was a bit of a surprise pick at the 23rd overall.
That just shows how much they had Aaron Rodgers. So I think they're kind of the team that just needs to figure out who they're going to pass the ball to.
I think they'll spread the love.
Yes.
That's it for the wide receivers. In terms of guys that didn't get mentioned, but I kind of like.
Yeah.
I like Mike Evans for where his ADP is.
He's always going to get 1,000 yards.
Well, it actually will break Jerry Rice's record if he gets it again this year.
Yeah.
Don't spend a second round pick on Mike Evans, but if Mike Evans is still on the board in the 4th round, I think he's about as consistent as ever.
I always love Mike Evans. He's good.
And mentioned with the rookies before, I think Jack Besh is worth a late round flyer from the Raiders. So keep an eye out for him if he's still available. Let's go into the running backs. You've got the King mentioned.
Another guy, don't need to worry about him. You'll draft him. But I wanted to talk about offensive lines to begin with. And this comes from Football Insights. So it's actually pretty interesting to follow along. They've gone and mapped all the big sites that kind of rank where the offensive line talent is. And this is kind of the list of where they end up, of course, 1 being at the top and 32 being at the bottom.
So for those listening, they've got the Eagles, Broncos, Bucks, Lions are the top 4, and the bottom 4 are the Texans, Bengals, Seahawks, and Giants.
Yeah. I did map my playoff teams, fringe teams, and bad teams to that, and you'll see the bad teams scoot down on the bottom and the fringe to good teams, playoff teams of up the top with a few outliers there in the Bengals, Texans, and say Chiefs. And I think that's probably because I like the Chiefs and Bengals quarterbacks, and the Texans I think will be good enough defense to be a fringe football team, and they've got some talent if their quarterback shows his capability.
Texans lost Laramie Tunsil as well. So for those familiar with his game, one of the best outside tackles in the league. And
I think they get heavily dinged for that as well. But maybe they don't end up being the worst offensive line in football. But yeah, they were heavily dinged for the fact they did that.
And then you go up to the top, Eagles, Broncos, Bucks, Lions. In terms of running backs, very favourable place to end up being Denver for a couple of running backs who we'll get to. We saw what Saquon Barkley did behind a good offensive line last year. We saw how good Bucky Irving was in the second half of last year. His ADP is actually quite high though this year, so be aware of that. And then the 1-2 punch of Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery, Sonic and what's the other? Who's Sonic's mate?
Knuckles.
Sonic and Knuckles. There at the Lions. Good offensive line equals good running back play.
Yeah. And the Vikings and Bills are pretty interesting there. I actually didn't have Ray Davis in this, but he's pretty interesting with the whole James Cook contract. Will he not be there? That'll be an interesting one to follow. And they've kind of been phasing Cook out, so Ray Davis is an interesting one to follow.
Might be worth a late round flyer.
Yes. My avoids, and you'll see the big fella, the ADP there, and you're wondering, why have I got Ashton Jeanty there? And if I go back to the previous slide, it's probably because the Raiders are towards the bottom of the pack here for their offensive line talent.
They're in like the 20s, mid-20s.
But my comparison is go back and look at Robinson's rookie year. Bijan. I think same thing. He was drafted like 4 or 5 and finished as RB9 that year, his rookie year. I kind of feel like Jeanty's going to be the same. And I think we talked in our draft show about, is he the generational talent when he comes up against NFL defenses, or is there some concerns there?
Bloke played in the Mountain West, so for our Aussie listeners, not the strongest college
strongest
division to come out of. A lot of the running backs that we see succeed in the NFL come out of the SEC, so there is question marks there. Also, his ADP, they might sting you. He's sort of top 5, top 6 for most leagues.
So that's my concern is you draft at 5 and you end up with 9-10 based on where rookies. And again, I'm one of those guys who's like, let's see and confirm the fact, is he the generational talent he is? And then I'll worry about drafting him first round next year when he rolls back around. Let him be someone else's problem is kind of what I'm getting at, and see if he can turn what he did in the Mountain West into big numbers in the NFL.
My concern there, against your point, is the ceiling for him is considerably higher than anyone else on screen. So
definitely.
Yes, the Raiders maybe don't have the best offensive line, but this bloke is going to touch the ball 300 times this year. Pete Carroll likes to run the ball, except for 2 yards out in the Super Bowl. And everything's poised for him to have 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Yep. But
I also do agree, you might have to draft him at the end of the first round in your draft, in a snake draft setting. So big price tag for a guy who's unproven at the NFL level.
Like, as your franchise guy, it's a tough one, and that's kind of why my thoughts, based on what I've told you about bad teams get best players, I'm kind of avoiding. And if I'm looking at Raiders, I'm looking at Bok Bowers mainly, and then looking elsewhere.
Quinshon Judkins, we mentioned.
I think we've covered
preseason.
Jenkins in the postseason coverage. Like, he's not under contract. He's going to get a big suspension.
Browns.
Browns. He beat his misses up. Avoid. I've got Tony Pollard up there. Not specifically him. Titans. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to avoid this Titans team. Again, they're bad. They've got a new quarterback. Be interesting to see how they go. Bit of a change, though, today. If Spears is hurt and he's going to miss significant time, there's no one else but Tony Pollard there. So he potentially, through volume, might be worth a pick at his ADP. But again, I'm just trying to avoid that Titans team. Go back to that offensive line. Isn't that great? I'm just avoiding that team as best as I can.
I had him in a few leagues last year. We saw how good he was behind a good Cowboys offensive line, and we did see a slight regression. Bloke still rushed for 1,000 yards last year. He only had 5 touchdowns, and as far as receiving out of the backfield, didn't get super involved, didn't have a receiving touchdown, only had 238 receiving yards. He's rostered in 87% of leagues as it stands. I think he is worthwhile if you're drafting him to maybe be in your flex or, sit there. Don't expect him to be your RB1. If you're doing that, you're in trouble.
No. And I caveat, of course, there with Spears, hurt like that. But if Spears misses time, exactly. If he misses time, then that of course elevates. He could be getting 20+ touches a game, kind of thing, and that very much will help. But again, that Titans team, I want to see Cam Ward show his quality as a quarterback, and they actually improve before I'm investing heavily in it.
Now, you got Quinshon Judkins' running mate there in Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. He goes into a Patriots backfield, which features Ramondre Stevenson, who they just paid pretty handsomely. Is that your concern?
Yeah, well, I think I see a lot of people saying Mike Vrabel is the head coach. He's a run-heavy head coach. Caveat to that is he had Derrick Henry, so different conversation. And everyone forgets that Josh McDaniels is the OC, who's a guy that doesn't really feature one back over the other through his system. Caveat to that is Henderson did score a return touchdown the other day and looked pretty good, and they were targeting him pretty heavily. So, there is some go there, but I feel like Stevenson, of course, didn't play in that game. So how that kind of fits in, I'm just avoiding the Pats running back, their RBs. So I'm trying to avoid both of them and say I'm just not sure with where that team is for the run back position. It's another guy that, again, I think he's been drafted pretty high on his draft position, whereas I just don't think that maybe you get that return on value yet for that Patriots team that needs to improve and needs to see Drake kind of improve with them.
So you've got caution around Genty, Judkins, Pollard and Henderson. Who are some running backs that you like this year?
Yes, we go down one. Start with Broncos. And again, they were number 2 on their offensive line. They have an offensive line. But that isn't AJ Harvey. That is J.K. Dobbins. And I might have to eat my words here after what I watched this morning. But I feel like J.K. might get the early job. And I will have in the rookie sections RJ Harvey as a potential, because I think it's going to be the tale of 2 seasons. I feel like JK, you're going to get value out of the start of the year where he'll be 1 and 2 and, your first and second down guy, and then Harvey will come in for third down. And people forget that Dobbins had 900 yards and 10 touchdowns or something last year. Like he played, whoa, what happened there?
We've got some cricket in the background.
Yeah, there we go. I pressed something. I'm kind of thinking if you're going to draft J.K. Dobbins, he's a good value at his ADP. You're probably going to get 8 good weeks out of him before they maybe turn over. Having said that, what I saw this morning was Harvey played the one first and second down, and then Dobbins came in for the third. So the role reverse of what I thought coming in. What was interesting though is Harvey went very west-east, didn't run through the tackles at all for his 7 carries. So I'm wondering if they may look to bring him on slowly is what I'm getting at, and they will have Dobbins maybe start the season. So I'm thinking Dobbins for the first half of the season, he'll get plenty of ball. Harvey will probably be your third down back, and then that will rotate as they kind of bring Harvey along, is how I think the team will go.
RJ Harvey is 5'8", 205.
Yep.
So on the smaller side of things, he actually played quarterback in high school, but he also brained it in his last 2 years at University of Central Florida.
Had them behind Genty. He was essentially second for missed tackles and like 20-yard runs or something. So yeah, he had a pretty and Denver overdrafted him essentially from where everyone thought he would go because they wanted him that badly. So that offensive line, that offensive scheme, he's definitely going to be involved. That's why I think both will be involved. I just can't make up my mind of who's going to be better. I'm like JK more purely because his ADP is like 4 ranked later than where Harvey is currently. Just noting that I'm just not sure what that breakdown is going to be. So I'm watching their preseason games, besides watching Denver, of course, intently to see how that kind of breakdown happens and what they kind of cement as the vets kind of going into the start of the season.
All right, the next bloke has probably got the highest ceiling, potentially out of anyone that we're going to talk about today. Christian McCaffrey, played by injury last year, had the bilateral Achilles tendonitis, comes back and then does his PCL in the snow at Buffalo. You like it? You reckon you might get a little bit of value? You're probably not going to have to use the first 5 picks on CMC this year. You might get him back into the first, might even fall into the second. So what else do you like about him?
Him and JT have a very similar story there. That they, I think for CMC, everyone was burnt by him. They're off CMC.
I was burnt by him last year. Yeah, a lot of people were.
So
not his fault.
No, like he's hurt. Leg's hurt.
The 49ers could have been a bit more forward with his Achilles.
There's also true. And so far they're saying he's healthy, he's all good. He's going into the season, and previously coming off injury, he had 2 good years after that and was dominant. Like, I don't think if he's going at the end of the first, early second, for the potential that you're getting RB1 again, like you run that risk. And the offensive line was middle to higher pack that we looked at. They've lost a lot of mouths to feed. He's going to get a lot of ball. It's going to be him, Kittle, and Purcell, it looks like. So
receiving wise.
Yeah. So,
Ayuk's unavailable. Samuel's out of the building.
If healthy, maybe 400 touches. Enormous
upside for CMC.
Exactly.
And he's not going to cost you what he would have in previous drafts.
So that's why I'm really, really like it. And the same story goes for JT, for Jonathan Taylor, because Taylor, the back end of last year, coming back and went healthy, had the most rushing yards. He was absolutely dominant in the last month. He's on a pretty shit team. That offensive line's, again, that mid-tier to higher, but he's probably going to be fed for the fact that the rest of the team's bad. So going back to my point of bad teams, he's the best player on that team.
Yep.
So if you're looking for a guy, again, at the probably early second round, you could be picking him up and he could be very dominant.
Bro played 14 games last year, had 1,431 yards, 11 touchdowns. He was 7th in terms of fantasy points per game.
Yeah. A lot of people are still worried with the injuries to these two. At the moment, both are healthy, both are looking good. So, I'm open to be hurt again for these two. I think the ceiling,
baby, one more time.
I think just they, when played, still show that they have the elite ceiling, and that's why you'd pick them. I still think they're very, very good.
Now, the next guy probably definitely doesn't have the ceiling of these other two, but maybe a bit of sneaky value in Jordan Mason. Yep. He's come across from the San Francisco 49ers, was quite good in the absence of CMC last year.
Given a decent contract.
Goes over to back up Aaron Jones at the Vikings, who's getting a little bit long in the tooth. What's your thinking here around Jordan Mason?
Well, they've already said 50-50 split for the two of them. Aaron Jones is getting older, 32, did miss a couple games last year. I feel like with the deal on that, they're kind of handing it over. They didn't play Aaron Jones today, or was it yesterday? I can't remember. But they didn't play him, so that protecting him as the veteran. But they did play Mason. I think what Mason did last year, he showed that he has talent, and I think they're going to turn it over to him eventually. And I think with the 5th ranked offensive line that I mentioned before, I think there's value there. I think there's value there for Mason for what he could potentially do behind that offensive line. The injury that ended his season last year was shoulder. For RBs, I usually avoid guys with leg injuries because that's their money maker. So shoulder's fine for me. Like his money makers are still good.
Not a quarterback.
So yeah, exactly. So I think he's pretty good value for where you could potentially get him with the fact that he's already in a 50-50 split, that offensive line, and he's could be a couple of weeks into stealing that job.
He played 12 games last year at San Francisco, 789 rush yards, 5.2 yards per carry, one of the highest in the NFL. The downside with Jordan Mason, and he may be able to add it to his game this year, but nearly non-existent in the passing game last year.
Didn't get any targets there.
So if you're in a PPR league, be very, very aware of that. But from a value perspective, you're going to be able to pick him up late and maybe RB1 at Minnesota sometime this year.
Yep.
All right, you've got some rookies. We've already spoken pretty heavily about RJ Harvey.
Yep.
So let's talk about Amarion Hampton and Caleb Johnson.
Yeah, well, Hampton, I think, kind of explains for itself that offensive line's good, but of course later kind of maybe change the conversation. Harris is hurt at the moment. So the likelihood is Hampton will steal that job. Again, I think Harrison's probably going to maybe steal some red zone work, so you have to kind of weigh that. I still really like him. And, they've invested draft couple in him. He's their future. So I think he's a solid running back for the Chargers. Johnson, I like more. And interesting, he didn't test real well, which is kind of why he fell off. But watching his gameplay, he reminds me so much of Le'Veon Bell. And the fact that he ended up with the Steelers, I think it's Jalen Warren, is not really a bell cow kind of back. So he's very elite with the ball, but he's the kind of guy that I feel he needs the change of pace. Like the fact that he has big breaks and big outbreaks of rush yards is the fact that he's fresh when he comes on. Whereas I think you'll smash Johnson into the line, play after play, and see if he can get 3, 4, 5 yards for you. And so I, again, see anywhere from 200 to 300 plus targets for Johnson. I think he will start and be their bell cow.
Yep, like both of that, and you'll get a lot better value for Caleb Johnson than you will for Amarion Hampton. There's some other rookies that are worth a very late round fly, but have some potential. They were drafted later, but could find themselves in favourable situations. Yep. We've got Bashal Tootin and Jaden Blue of the Jags and Cowboys, respectively. Few mouths to feed in that Jacksonville backfield with ETN and Bigsby.
Well, both have the same sort of problem. Like, if we start with Tootin, Tank, by all accounts, is going to get a lot of ball, and ETN's kind of fallen out of favour there. But Tootin kind of combines the two of them, so you could see a bit more potential out of him to potentially get a lot more ball, and maybe he steals that third down running back job. I think... Actually, both these guys might have hammy issues. Well, he had ankle and Blue had hammy. So, be careful with that. I think both are fine, but they've had some late scares. But of the running backs that you could potentially, out of the big name dudes, these are the guys that I like a lot, that are really fast, catch the ball a lot, and potentially could steal jobs. Blue is potentially my favorite because Williams, I think, and Sanders there, I don't want to say wash running backs, but they're not guys that are breaking down the house, and it's a job that can be stolen. Blue, I think, has dynamic and a receiver, will be able to steal a lot of work from those guys. Cowboys line's not what it used to be, but I think he can be a dynamic factor in that. Did go down with a hammy, but returned. I think he's okay. They're my sneaky guys late to target.
I loved Jaden Blue as a pick. Like I said, you've got some older running backs in Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders ahead of him. But yeah, good chance that he could get a fair bit of usage there in Dallas. And some other rookies that not listed, but maybe worth a late round fly. I think Cam Scatterboo at New York Giants, we saw Tyrone Tracy go pretty well last year, but Scatterboo out of the backfield, catching the ball out of the backfield, really good at Arizona State. Might be worth a late round pick.
Tracy's got that job on lock, and Scatterboo I think's hurt at the moment as well, so you got to be careful there.
Woody Marks as well out of Houston with the injury cloud around Joe Mixon.
And Chubb, by all accounts, he has been struggling. Of course, coming back from another
horrific injury.
Yeah, another bad injury
for Nick Chubb. But there's some
tough guys there.
There's some definitely some darts to be thrown at running backs late. William 30, just curious, what round do you guys start drafting QBs? Would you agree Justin Fields would be a good backup quarterback? Our league is a single quarterback league. We have a keeper league as well, which has been 2, but we've gone to 3 keepers this year. So generally speaking, the quarterbacks will start to fall in the 3rd and 4th round. I think there's an argument to take Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen in the 2nd round of our drafts.
Yep.
But then the top end guys will sort of go 3rd and 4th round, and then usually a bit of a drop off as well. Because I think if you're not getting a top 5 guy with quarterback depth, and you've done this in the past, not taking quarterback to real late.
Yeah, I took Jalen Daniels 13th last year, and he was my starting quarterback. Like, it depends.
You might be keeping him this year, I'd imagine.
It depends on your targeting, I think. And we've got a few quarterbacks to talk about in a minute that potentially you could look at targeting. But yeah, if you're missing out on those top guys, know the guys that have drafted them probably aren't going to draft another quarterback. So the likelihood you can then wait on quarterbacks, you just monitor it and then have guys that you're interested in targeting. So I've listed out I've got 4 that are kind of different spreads, but a guy like Justin Fields is not a guy that I'm super keen on because I'm still waiting for the prove it from him.
He's got him there as a backup, so he's not asking. Taking Justin Fields as your QB1. I think if you are going late and you're happy to, forsake or forego, I should say, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and you want to throw 2 darts late, I think Justin Fields definitely has tremendous upside there. There's a good chance he runs for 800 yards and has 8 rushing touchdowns. It's just how good is he going to be with passing the ball?
Yeah, me personally, since like you said, we have a 1 QB league that I focus heavily on that one guy, and I'd rather those darts be thrown at more wide receivers and running backs, especially rooks that we just mentioned here, versus trying to look at a backup quarterback. Because again, if you're playing a 10-12 team league, most guys, there'll be 10 or 12 quarterbacks off the board. Maybe a couple of them keepers, keep a backup. So if the top 15 are gone, you can still pick up 16, 17 quarterback quite easily.
Yep.
Whereas it's a lot harder if, for running backs and wide receivers because a lot more of those guys go. I'd prefer to throw more darts at those guys late in my drafts than get backup quarterbacks.
I think we're pretty similar in our draft strategy. I think running back it drops off so quick, and if you've gone in unders on your running backs, it's a good way to fuck yourself.
We haven't talked about like Hunter, Sampson. Like there's just other guys that, again, potentially could have looks in late as rookies. And there's other guys from last year we didn't talk about, like Jacques Charbonnet, Benson, guys that kind of handcuffs, but as soon as that first guy goes down, like those guys later, again, I would target versus trying to get a backup quarterback.
It's a shame we've got tight ends next, but we'll go to tight ends and then we'll get into the quarterbacks.
So again, for tight ends, if you're not getting the top 4 or 5 guys, these are the guys that I'm probably looking at. I started with Evan Ingram, and again, I might have to give a caveat for what I saw today. In that Denver team, I kind of feel like he could be wide receiver 2 and potentially get, everyone thinks he'll get 100+ targets. Interesting enough, today, 0 targets for him, and Troy Franklin got 4 from Bo Nix. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out.
How many drives did the ones play today?
3 or 4.
And no targets in that?
Yeah, no targets out of that.
And
he was on the field a fair bit too. So, Cortland got some, Franklin got a fair bit, and Franklin, by all accounts, had a good camp. So maybe they were kind of focusing it. Maybe the sandbagging as well. They don't want to kind of show their hand a little bit. But for Denver, outside of Sutton, everyone else is unproven. Ingram is a bit of a proven vet and commodity. Should get a lot of ball. Just caveat, watch some of those games and see how Troy Franklin plays out. Mark Andrews, I think I mentioned a little bit earlier. Though he was injured, though he missed games, still scored 11 touchdowns last year.
The only tight end in double-digit touchdowns. In fact, the only tight end even close because Kittle and Smith had 8 and he was 3 ahead of them with 11 receiving touchdowns.
And that's off 69 targets and 55 receptions. The other blokes all had like 100+ targets.
One in 5 of his catches was touchdowns last year, which to me is a little bit concerning because the volume was really dropped off for Mark Andrews last year. And there's a guy called Isaiah Larkley who's pretty good.
Who's hurt at the moment. So
start of the season might be really good for Mark Andrews.
Exactly. So that's kind of my caveat there. And I'm more probably worried about Hopkins stealing his touchdowns, but I feel like he still value. He had the hip drop tackle that kind of derailed his season a little bit. So I think if he plays the full season, Mark Andrews is still good. Lamar loves throwing him the ball. You know the meme.
The hip drop was 2023 though, so he played a full season last year, coming off that nasty.
I feel like he missed
fracture.
games.
No, he played 17.
Did he play 17?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I still like his value based on the other things that I said, and Lamar still likes to funnel in the ball. So,
and you're also not probably going to have to take him in the top 4 tight ends.
Correct.
Let's just go over that. So they're not pictured, but Bowers, McBride, Kittle are probably your tier 1.
With Laporta as the 4th there.
And then Laporta and Kelsey probably, even as an old man, are still pretty good at football.
Yeah, and then that's if you miss these guys out of those guys, these are the guys I'm kind of interested in targeting. Tucker Kraft is the next. And the reason I put him here is someone in that Green Bay team has to take a step forward into the shining light. And I feel like he's really talented and Love has a really good connection with him.
Yeah, agree on all points there.
They might spread the ball with all the wide receivers, but I think they just value him more, and I think he's a better red zone target than some of the other guys, especially with Watkins. What's Christian's last name?
Watson.
Potentially missing a bit of time.
He's always hurt.
Yeah.
I love Christian Watson's talent, but his
talent profile is excellent, but the hamstrings, the legs just
hasn't proven it. He had 707 receiving yards last year and 7 touchdowns. He was tight end 10. And some of those names ahead of him, Frymuth going to share, Ertz. I think there's a good chance that he finishes in the top 8 this year.
Definitely can move up. Musgrave is still there, but I think he'll overtake and
Musgrave is the clear 2.
Yes.
So there was some sort of speculation going into last year, twin tight end sets, are they sort of about equal? No, there's a clear 1 and a clear 2. Kraft is the clear 1.
Yeah. So if I'm trying to throw darts at the Packers team and who's going to get balls thrown at them, I'm throwing it at Tucker. That's my pick out of that lot.
And what do you reckon about the rook, Tyler Warren?
Yeah, well, I hadn't included him because I was just worried about that team, but after what I saw the other day and with Daniel Jones, he didn't have the same athletic profile as all the other tight ends that were drafted around him and after him. But what he does is just get open and has a really good ability to box out and use his body to get catches, which when that one preseason game, Daniel Jones was just like, I've just got to pepper him with ball and target him. I think he had 4 targets and 3 catches in his limited work. So, led, I think, the ones for the Colts offense, led the guys that started in that game for the amount of targets they got. And I feel like if Jones is going to be that starter, if anyone's going to have a Laporta Bowers type season, it's going to be Warren for the fact that he's just going to give you peppered with the ball over and over. Wouldn't surprise him if he gets 10 targets a game kind of thing.
I don't think he'll have a Bowers season because I don't think anyone's had a Bowers season, but I do love the upside.
Well, who broke Bowers' records in college? This bloke. So by 400 plus yards.
And goes into the clearest pathway for a tight end to shine straight away, whereas Loveland's got to sort of have this positional battle with Cole Kmet and other mouths to feed. The path is wide open for Tyler Warren, provided the quarterback can hit him in his hands.
Yeah, so my caveat on that is, if RA15 is the starting quarterback, do not draft him. Wait until Jones is the quarterback and then roll back around and pick him then. That's my thinking.
Any other tight ends worth mentioning? We've spoke about Loveland. Definitely if you're in a keeper or dynasty league, going to be pretty popular in those leagues, but may not be able to produce week 1.
Well, I think another rookie is the Commanders rookie, which I do not remember his name, purely because Zach Ertz is there, but he's fucking old. Is he a rookie or maybe he's a second year?
They might have a second year. Let me get you the Commanders depth chart.
It starts with an S, Sin something or other.
Commanders depth chart. Sinnott is his name, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's been a big raps on Sinnott and
Ben Sinnott.
Potentially, taking over that role from Zach Ertz as the future of that position in that team. And then
there's other rookies that could be worth a dart throw. Mason Taylor and Terrence Ferguson of the Jets and Rams.
The Seahawks one's the interesting one.
Elijah Arroyo.
And he had the big final season in Miami there with Cam Ward and was kind of 1 year wonder. But they got rid of Noah Fant. So he's kind of straight in line for a starting job. So I'm not sold on that Sam Donald being over there for quarterback after his 1 year wonder as well after 4 mediocre ones. There'll be an interesting team to have a look at.
A few darts to be thrown there in the very late rounds, possibly.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about quarterbacks. Quarterback strategy is very important when it comes to drafting. I think, there's an argument for Lamar Jackson to be in a tier of his own when it comes to fantasy football.
Yeah, but Allen and this man, Jalen Hurts, wouldn't be far behind.
Yeah, this bloke had 16 rushing touchdowns last year.
Didn't throw the ball as much, but
the tush push did not get banned either. So they met to discuss, whether it's in the rules. So it's in again this year, and there's more than likely that this guy has double-digit rushing touchdowns at least. So let's say you miss out on a tier 1 guy.
Yeah, the top 4 or 5 again. If you're missing out on them, like I said before, and you're looking for targets later. These are my guys, and probably goes left to right currently in ADP.
Jalen Milroe's a big dart throw,
big smoky for me, but let's probably start with Bo Nix. So I think he's like QB8, I think, on ADP at the moment, going in that 6th, 7th kind of round. And these guys, these 3 here, probably because they add sneaky value with their legs. 29 touchdowns for Bo Nix last year, but 400 rush yards. Is the reason why he's in there. Brock Purdy had a down year, but he doubled his rushing yards from the previous year from 150 to 300. So he's adding more rushing value there. Hopefully with CMC back, he can then get a bit more time and pepper Kittle with all the ball he could possibly get. And then Drake May there, he only scored 315 touchdowns last year, needs to grow. But again, 400 plus rushing yards for him there, another sneaky guy with the legs. So they add extra value. And that's, if you got targeting a dude later as we get into, say, round 6, 8, and 10, that these guys are more value purely because they're adding a little bit more with the legs over some of the other quarterbacks potentially. So they give you a better floor is kind of what I'm getting at.
Drake May needs to prove it for mine. His ADP is 127 overall, so we're looking at sort of 12th round.
Yep.
Maybe if, going back to the Justin Fields argument, if you want to throw darts at 2 quarterbacks, he might be worthwhile. Nix and Purdy are quite like. But if you're looking at the guys around them, it's like if you don't believe in Murray or Fields and you don't really want Goff or Prescott, these are the guys that give you that kind of upside with running as well, with the throwing capability. And same thing, if you're getting down to Drake May, if you don't love or Stroud, guys that probably don't give you much width on the ground, May can give you a bit more with his legs over those guys. You mentioned Goff and Prescott. I like probably both of them. Dak has been banged up the last 5 years. He's only had 2 full years. Yep. So I was having a look at his injuries and how concerned are we now about these injuries that are building up. And it's all right-sided. So you think about all your power, it's coming through your leg drive. He had a hamstring avulsion on his right side last year. His right side is where he's had that horrible compound fracture in his ankle, and he's had a right thumb injury. So a lot of question marks around health. But if Dak stays healthy, there's definite chance he's a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, that's the big if there, unfortunately.
And then Jared Goff, a guy who has stayed very healthy, yes, he gives you absolutely squat with his legs, will be the signal caller for one of the best offenses in football. I think there's a clear path for him to be a top 10 quarterback as well. There's
a slight difference, I think, from this year to last, because they played a lot of dome last year. They got to travel a bit more. Their schedule is significantly harder this year too.
And no Ben Johnson.
We'll see how that plays out, but their schedule's significantly harder this year, so we'll see how he actually goes in that.
Now you're picking Jalen Milroe after you've already got a quarterback established, I'm imagining.
Yeah, this is my late dart right at the end of your draft. If you're looking at quarterbacks potentially, if you didn't get Jalen Daniels last year and you're thinking who's my Jalen Daniels for this year, that'll be Jalen Milroe. If you look at those guys that have come out with passing and rushing, the way I think of it is, Vic was pretty good at Michael Vick. That is pretty good at everything. He was probably a better passer overall than Lamar was, and Lamar was a better runner than he is. but he's grown as a passer. And then I think Jalen Daniels probably was better as a passer coming out of college than say Lamar was, but not as good of a runner.
He's
but
not Vic or Lamar with his legs.
Whereas I think Milroy's probably a better runner than those three guys that I just mentioned, but he's less of a passer. But I think I'm just not a believer so much in Sam Darnold as well, and he has a very clear path to steal that job. If Darnold struggles, they did give him a lot of money, but having said that, if he struggles and Milroy can show that he's already shown in preseason he's got the wheels, he just needs to show the ability to throw. I do like his arm talent. I think he could be a guy that takes that job and steals it at some point.
There's not many quarterbacks that run 4.40s.
Yeah, exactly.
So
one of the few quarterbacks that actually run the 40. Those guys I mentioned before didn't run. They all opted out. So
the ceiling is very, very high. For mine, there is a lot of question marks around the passing prowess. But yeah, you're saying he's not polished as a passer, and he's got plenty of time to work on his passing game and potentially learn under Sam Darnold for a little bit. I think I love this in a fantasy or dynasty setting. I'm not sure if he's going to be tearing defenses apart in week 6 of this year.
No. He might be a post-buy kind of thing. It'd be interesting to see how Sam Darnold does, but I feel like Milroy was as comparable a runner to Lamar Jackson and maybe slightly worse as a passer, but Lamar was pretty unrefined as a passer.
When he come out, yeah.
Yeah, when he come out. So I can see the skill set, and I can see, this is the reason they drafted him, and I could definitely see him exploding and taking over.
Yep, no, I like it. It's a nice smoky in there in what is obviously, a very safe and deep position.
Yep. And that's fantasy football that we've got for this year.
That was a massive, massive effort. We might clip a few of those up maybe positionally, and we'll have our fantasy draft in a couple of weeks' time. We'll let you know how we go. And it was interesting, it was me versus you in our fantasy final last year. And who won that one? I forgot. Oh, that was me.
My team was too vet heavy and faded very late.
And historically, Sean has been very good in our league too. So we'll let you know how we go. But fantasy football is around the corner. We'll be talking lots of NFL in the next 4 months. Thank you for listening to our fantasy section. All right, let's bring it back down under. We have the cricket on at the moment. Let's talk some cricket. All right, Australia's playing South Africa, the first of a few T20 and ODIs that are starting in August, which seems unusual. But anyways, we'll follow this one as we go. South Africa,
Tim David got 83 and got out at the end.
Absolutely saved us. South Africa need 103 off 62. We did just finish up in the West Indies, an absolute whitewash. We've already spoken about the tests and then added the 5 T20s to that. Probably what's been more interesting to follow in cricket terms in the last couple of weeks was the finish of the India and England tour. So India over there, the series finishes Desmond 2-2 apiece. Tactically interesting in the 4th test at Manchester, where India made 358 and then England go out and make 669, maybe batted a little bit too long. It was an absolute road, but the big story out of that was Joe Root making 150, going to 2nd all-time on the run scorers list, passes our Ricky Ponting, along with a few others to go number 2. And he's not catching Tendulkar anytime soon, but certainly is poised to get there if he plays another few years.
The stat I saw was the difference between him and Tendulkar is the same differences between him and 2023. So
it's only a couple of years.
So if he plays another couple of years, he can definitely get there if he keeps up this form. So it's pretty wild. Post-COVID, he's just accelerated significantly, scoring tons at will, and really rapidly shot up that list.
One place he hasn't scored a ton is down under, so that's a blemish on his career so far. The Ashes only a few months away. We'll definitely be talking a lot of Ashes come sort of November, but a little while away just yet. So absolute road there in Manchester. India go out and make 4 for 425. This game had draw written all over it by about halfway through day 5, and then a bit of hoopla towards the end where the Poms had offered the draw to the Indians and said, let's go in for an early beer and shake hands. And India said, no, Washington Sundar hasn't scored Test 100 just yet. We wouldn't mind him getting there and Jadeja got there as well. And then Q, all kinds of toys out of the cot from the team that loves moral victories and talking about the spirit of cricket and all the rest of it. And for us as Aussies, that probably a little impartial to both of these teams. I think most Aussie fans started to swing towards cheering for India in the series.
Yes, yes.
And then we got our wish, although we were, great Homer Simpson meme of crying to see England absolutely bottle a game at the Oval with India winning by just 6 runs. They lost 7 for 66 after Root and Harry Brook were pretty established.
Harry Brook threw it away.
Yeah, well, a little bit, although he got dropped, or Siraj stepped on the rope when he was only on 19. So game plays out differently if Siraj takes that. And then it was that man, Mo Siraj, who was just about unplayable in the first session of day 5. And it worked out really well from a viewing perspective for us as well, because it was only going to need a session for whatever result came out, or all results other than draw are on the table. The tie was certainly on the table there with only 6 runs deciding the game, and one of the more entertaining games of Test cricket in recent memory. But it meant that the series finished 2-2, and it means that England haven't had a series win against Australia or India since before COVID. And it means that India retain the series as well, retain the Tendulkar-Anderson trophy. So love it to see it as Aussies, England bottling a lead, and just a really, really good game of Test cricket. Australia A also going to be playing a little bit here, so that will be very big for some guys who will be putting their name forward for potentially getting into the Ashes. And then when the Shield starts in sort of early October, a lot of eyes will be on there.
The Nuffies will be watching it, trying to see...
well, particularly the top order batsmen. How's Marnus playing? How's Marcus Harris playing? How's Cam Bancroft playing? How's Jake Weatherall playing? They're all going to have their names in the hat for joining, most likely joining Usman Khawaja in opening the Ashes come November. What's your thoughts on white ball cricket in August here? It does feel a bit early, but we do know what cricket's like these days.
Why?
What
tournament's not happening?
Probably a gap in the schedule, and they thought, why not? And it turns out in Darwin and Cairns, it's actually pretty warm anyway in August. So good for the people at the northern end of Australia to get a little bit of white ball cricket. Seems like a reasonable showing there in Darwin, and I expect to see the same in Cairns in a few nights' time. And look, the teams are treating it pretty seriously, because we've seen just about a full strength white ball team line up for us, and guys like Kasigo Rabada and Tristan Subs playing for South Africa. They're treating it pretty seriously too. So we'll see how this one unfolds. I don't know if we'll get a result given that we've probably only got 15-20 minutes left of pod, but it's game on here in the first one here in Darwin. That'll lead us into a final round. Let's start with some UFC. A win for one Aussie, a loss for another. So Steve Urseg gets a win in the flyweight division, but Robert Whittaker losing a couple of weeks ago at middleweight. Did you watch a bit of this?
It was a bit back and forth, and he did get the knockdown. And of course, we're going to be biased to the Australian.
I thought he was unlucky. Robbed is a strong word, but
it was a split decision and not in his favour. So it's a bit tough, but. It's hard to see he's now kind of struggling, floating around there in the middle of the middleweight division. He's kind of getting into gatekeeper status, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. You probably don't see Bobby Knuckles being a UFC champion anymore. He's 34. He turns 35 come December, but certainly could play that gatekeeper role.
Hopefully more fun fights than gatekeeper-y, but it's going to be tough for him.
So he's lost 3 of his last 5 fights. Had the loss in the title eliminator to Dricus du Plessis, the current champ, back in July of 23. Then had wins against Costa and Alaskarov, and then losing to Hamzat in the first round. Look, Hamzat's an absolute killer, but I thought a little bit unlucky in this. It was a 5-round fight as well against Renier de Ridder of the Netherlands.
Yep.
Urseg today, I didn't see any of this. Did you see any highlights?
He seemed to be, I didn't see this, but from what I saw, what I followed was he was outstruck but wrestled really well and stole the rounds. So it was good for him also to get back in the win column. He's had 3 losses in a row too, against good names, of course.
Yeah, we had that title fight against Alexandra Pantoja, who's, arguably in that GOAT conversation now at flyweight. And
Jason Marnie-Marsh's record.
But then, had losses to Kaikara France and
just
Brandon
fought for the
Marino.
belt. Who's also fought for the belt.
And a former champ as well in Marino. So, maybe a little bit outclassed against some of those high-end guys. So, really good to see Steve Urseg get the win against O'Day Osborne today. And, have an Aussie get a win there. But, been relatively quiet in the UFC, but we will preview UFC 319, which is fast approaching.
Pretty sure it's Perth, isn't it? 319.
It'll be before our next pod, so we may as well talk about it. Perth is upcoming, but this one is Chicago.
Perth 320, is it then?
Yeah, I think it might be 320.
Yeah.
Anyways, this one is in Chicago, and the date is August 16, next weekend. We may as well talk about it now.
Yeah, pretty interesting card because it's maybe very top heavy.
It is top heavy, but it's a good fight.
Yeah, Duplessis, not Faf. Fight taking on Hamzat in this. So, by all accounts, there had been some rumours floating around that Hamzat wasn't going to make it, but supposedly it's a week away. He'll be there. To be an interesting unorthodox fighter versus a heavy wrestling based fighter. So very interesting to see if who gets found out. Does Faf's Duplessis' interesting style help him here, or does Hamzat kind of get outclassed for the fact that he's one-dimensional? I'd be interested to see how this kind of plays out because he's been pretty dominant when he has been able to fight. He's only fought once a year for the past 3 years. Hamzat, of course, I think struggles with illness and his health. They haven't said like he has an autoimmune disease or something like that, but I wonder if he's got. He supposedly gets very, very sick if he catches bugs. So, it'd be interesting to see how he goes in this one.
Dr. Sean strikes again here on the Esky. It's an interesting gag, the old Faf, not Faf Duplessis, because anyone that might be listening to this from an American background is not going to have any idea what the fuck we're talking about. Cricket is pretty popular down here in Australia, and it's also popular in South Africa. In fact, they're playing each other right now.
Yes.
And there's a very famous ex-cricketer now from South Africa who shares a surname with Dricus called Faf Duplessis, and sometimes jokingly or unjokingly on this show, we will interchange their names. In terms of Dricus Duplessis, the defending champ, I want to say this might be the hardest fight that he's had, but when you think that he's got through Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, Strickland twice, and Robert Whittaker, he's already faced some killers.
Yeah, Bronson's there, Till as well. They're all big names in the UFC. So, I think it's a good competitive fight. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out, and I'm interested to see how his style translates. And it's kind of a lot of people talking about if Hamzat's going to win it, he needs to win early. Like he's got to wrestle and get it out because he has gassed before in other fights, and this is a championship fight. So the longer it goes, it favours Duplessis. So. I'm interested to see how that kind of all plays out. It's an interesting fight. It's probably not the biggest bill and the biggest seller of recent memory from name value because I guess Hamzat doesn't fight as much as some of the other guys, but I'm still interested to see how it plays out. Do you have odds? No
odds currently available on Sportsbet, but the odds are available for the rest of the card, so there might still be a few question marks lurking.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Maybe they can't give an odds because all those rumours were. Hamzat's got to show up to the weigh-in first before they can agree that's going to happen.
The UFC and Sportsbet were waiting on the thoughts of immunologist Gould here on Hamzat's metabolic or immune health. Yeah. Hopefully that fight goes ahead because obviously it's a tasty one. And like you mentioned, maybe just a little top-heavy this card. Yeah. We do have Leron Murphy and Aaron Pico. I think that's their names in featherweight.
Pico is a big name for more hardcores who come from. He's big in Bellator. He was really good at Bellator. Came
that's
across.
I've got no idea he is. Wrestling-
Brendan Sharp
wrestling
talked about it a
background.
lot on Rogan with the mixed martial arts. So, that's kind of how he got his name. Did have that bad TKO there and kind of slowed him down. And this is his first UFC fight. So it's the first time we see him in UFC. But he has a good name value from what he's done in the past.
Heaps of fights in Bellator.
Yeah, for ages in Bellator. So
28-year-old American coming across to, in my mind, in most people's mind, the premier MMA organisation. Welterweight, there's a fun fight with Jeff Neal taking on Carlos Prates.
old head there and Jeff Neal.
Yeah, he must be getting on these days, Jeff Neal. Let's have a little look here. Jeff Neal is 34 years of age, definitely not ancient, but starting to get there. A bloke that is ancient. In fact, both of these guys are pretty old here at middleweight.
It's actually a fun fight.
It
Cannonier
sure is,
taking on MVP.
Cannonier is 41 and MVP is 38.
Yes.
So combined age of 80 here, but definitely highly accomplished, both of these guys.
Yeah, both kind of middle of the pack in the middleweights, between 5 and 10. Kind of need a good result to push them forward.
Michael Venom Page, one of the biggest names in Bellator. But yeah, again, for guys that
So he's coming up in weight.
just UFC guys. Yeah,
So
he's
he's
only
been
got,
at
the, only got
welterweight,
the three recent UFC fights for MVP.
Yeah.
Cannonier
Cannon is a big middleweight too. So that's
the killer gorilla. He's 18 and 8. He's lost 2 of his last 3 fights. Age might be a bit of an issue, but definitely power-wise. Yeah, listed at 5'11", 185. If you've ever seen Jared Cannonier with his shirt off, how the hell he gets down to 185?
It's 90% pecs.
I will not know. In that 100 men versus gorilla, if he was the gorilla, I might back the killer gorilla there. And there's a flyweight fight as well, Tim Elliott and Kai Asakura. So definitely top heavy, and hoping that everything goes ahead as planned with DDP taking on Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah, I did see an ad for actually, check UFC 320 for me because I think that's the Perth one.
Yeah, there is a Perth one upcoming.
Actually, maybe they did announce a whole bunch of stuff for this because I remember last time I looked, they didn't have a list of fights for it. It was all rumoured. A long way away.
320 is ages away. Is Ankalaev Pereira? No, that's Las Vegas as well.
Las Vegas.
That's a sick card. So 320 over in Vegas. Have they got a date? October 4. That's going to be Ankalaev Pereira and Marav Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen, and then a fun light heavyweight fight with Yuri Prohaska taking on Khalil Roundtree. Yeah. In terms of a more well-rounded card.
That's a better rounded card.
Yeah. That one there.
Vegas, that makes sense.
There is Perth upcoming at some stage. We'll have to definitely, as Aussies, find out when that is.
Yeah, I heard an ad for it earlier today, but they didn't mention any one of the fighters on it. It was just like UFC B-roll.
Next UFC in Perth.
That's 260. That's
that's fight. It's a fight night.
Okay, that's
so it's before 320.
Before 3,
but it's not a main event.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right, let's talk some F1 to wrap this bitch up.
Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, not a lot to cover. There's been 2 races since the last pod. We had the Belgian and Hungarian GPs. Oscar won the Belgium with Lando in second, and then the roles were reversed in Hungary.
And McLaren's going pretty good, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And they've basically separated themselves. They're 100 points.
They'll win the constructors hands down.
Yeah, they'll win the constructors hands down, and one of them will be the Drivers' Championship. It is a long season, but they're 100 points away from max currently.
Too much.
With the upgrades and with the new regulations next year, a lot of the teams basically the cars are what they're going to be, and they're not going to improve significantly from where they are. So these two will be competing for a championship. So the lead's been cut down to 9. They go into the summer break where they come back in Netherlands.
Mm-hmm. End of the month or start of
September? Month, 31st of August. So they're Sunday for us. End of the month. So right at the end of the month, about 3 weeks away. So they're in their summer break. There's about 6 driver spots for next year that they got to confirm, plus Cadillac. So they got to work out who's going to be driving where. And you usually do that during the summer breaks where you get the big news when everyone goes home and they kind of make decisions. So we'll see what that happens nothing this week. We'll see what happens in the next 2 weeks.
Pierre Gasly rocking the Carlton Blues cap on holidays.
Yeah. He was here. He was maybe it was last season he came. He was here and he went to a game.
Man, how the hell he knows about Carlton? You got an Aussie missus, man.
I don't know. He went to a game. Like there's photos of him at an AFL game, which is where I think he got the cap from.
Some very ordinary comments I saw of her as a Carlton fan. Yeah, bloke loves coming 14th and stuff like that.
Yeah, unfortunately for old Pierre. Outside of that, Max Verstappen has confirmed he'll be at Red Bull next year. The clause he had to trigger in his contract didn't get triggered, so he'll be there next season. And maybe with Christian Horner going, maybe placated him enough to make that decision. Following on from that, Fred Vasher, I think is how you say it, he got a new contract, multi-year contract with Ferrari, which basically ruled out Christian Horner coming in and stealing his job for now. So I think they added another 2 years to his existing contract. So he'll be the head of Ferrari going forward. But largely that's it. F1 will be quiet for a couple of weeks as they go through the summer break until we hear about driver news potentially. But like I said, McLaren's going to win the Constructors, no doubt, and we're just going to work out who's going to be the drivers' champion at this stage. Yeah. Barring an all-time comeback from Verstappen, I think they're too far ahead and their car's just too good. The
race for second is interesting in the Constructors. Ferrari on 260, Mercedes 236, Red Bull 194. But yeah, it's definitely going to be McLaren taking out the Constructors. It's just going to be, is it our boy Oscar Piastri or is it the Pom Lando Norris? If you are wondering about Pierre Gasly's girlfriend, Francisca Kika Shakira, that's definitely not Shakira, but anyways, Gomez. She's from Portugal. So probably not a blue bagger by heart, but yeah. Welcome to suffering if you want to go for Carlton. Good on you, Pierre Gasly.
I did see a funny stat that if you removed Lando and Oscar from the season and just had shifted who finished where, that it'd be George Russell leading with Max Verstappen behind him and what's the old mate's name? Leclerc behind them, and there'd be like 20 points between the three of them. It'd be really close competition. So
thanks McLaren for ruining it all.
Yeah, just showing that McLaren are very far ahead and dominating essentially. So yeah, and those guys are making up the numbers at the back there.
It's a two-horse race. We've got to ask the question. When was the last time an Aussie won?
It was in, what's his name?
F1 champions.
I should know this.
Not in our lifetime, is it?
No, it's not. It was F1 champions.
There's a guy called Jack Brabham who won it in 1966.
Alan Jones. Yeah, Alan Jones.
Of not I'm Alan Jones fame.
Yes.
On, TV and general boomer shit talk.
Yeah, I don't think there was any others.
I don't think so. The 80s is all Alain Prost and
into Shuey, into Hamilton, into Vettel, into Lewis.
Yep. Into Max.
Yeah.
So 1980, quick maths, 45 years since we have seen an Aussie champ. And look, I'm not saying it's happening, but it's a coin flip.
Yep.
This is On The Esky. It's an Aussie sports podcast, very NFL-heavy podcast this evening, but it is a nice time of the year in August as we lead into preseason and fantasy and all the rest, only a month away from real football. Plus, footy finals upcoming in both the NRL and AFL. There's cricket down under. It's August. It does feel weird. South Africa needs 62 off 38. Might go watch the end of this at home. Yep. It's a late finish. 10:30. This will be finishing 11 o'clock. And what else? UFC 319 next week. So we'll see DDP go up against Hamzat Chimaev. The EPL starts next weekend too. We didn't even talk about any soccer, but we'll cover a little bit of soccer the next time we are on. Thank you. If you are finding us for the first time, hit that subscribe button. I think we'll clip up some of the NFL to make it a bit more bite-sized. And we'll catch you in a few weeks' time, potentially with our offsider. And thanks for letting us use the studio / your house on holidays. Monks, we'll see you next time here on The Esky.
Goodbye.